Chapter 4118 was too early. Sect Master Huang was about to explode from anger when he saw Island Master Qi's fake smile. Fair? It is indeed fair. Our Xuanji sect has been completely annihilated, and your Flying Flower Island is the only outstanding one. There are still 12 people left. Island Master Luo from Ascension Island snorted coldly. It would have been fine if it was just a sea scene. However, I heard from the eliminated disciples that more than 10 of your Flying Flower Island's disciples have been teleported to a place not too far away. They worked together to eliminate many of our disciples from Ascension Island who were left behind. Island Master Qi is really good at scheming. Island Master Qi spread out his hands. This is the uncertainty of the array formation. It wasn't controlled by me. Besides, aren't there 8 other people inside? Sect Master Chun of the Mysterious Fog sect stroked his beard and didn't say a word. Although he also thought that the Flying Flower Island was too damn shameless, the current result was unexpectedly good for him. There were still 6 people left in the Mysterious Fog sect. It was even better than expected that they could safely get second place. Moreover, the one who is most angry should be Tower Master Luochen, right? Every time the 9-tiered pavilion was first place, but this time they had been schemed against. They probably wouldn't let it go easily. However, to his surprise, Tower Master Luochen didn't have any special reaction. He just listened to everyone's conversation with an expressionless face. Master Ouyang of the Nameless Sword sect was also a little dumbfounded. After counting the number of people, he found that there were 2 disciples of their sect on the trial island. Besides Elder Gus' disciple Chu Fong, there was also Yun Chujio, who was making up the numbers. Master Ouyang couldn't tell what he felt in his heart. Could it be that the successive disciples of their sect were not as good as Yun Chujio, who was making up the numbers? At this moment, Tower Master Luochen, who had been silent, said coldly, "Everyone, don't be impatient. Before the final results are out, it's too early to say anything." The moment Tower Master Luochen said this, everyone was stunned. Too early to say. It ended in less than 4 hours, and judging from the number of people, the Flying Flower Island was firmly in first place. Could there be any unforeseen circumstances? Even if the other 8 people eliminated the animosity between the sects and joined forces, they would still not be a match for the Flying Flower Island. What unforeseen circumstances could there be? If there were any unforeseen circumstances, it was the Flying Flower Island that might eliminate those 8 people. When that time came, the Flying Flower Island would really stand out alone. When everyone thought of this, they looked at Island Master Qi angrily. They never thought that Island Master Qi would be so shameless. Island Master Qi looked at everyone calmly. He naturally knew what everyone was thinking, but this competition only happened once every 10 years. It was not easy for him to get the first place, so he naturally had to seize it. Moreover, although these people were dissatisfied, they couldn't do anything to him, so he didn't have any scruples at all. As for the final result, he wasn't worried at all. The first place would definitely go to their Flying Flower Island. At this moment, on Trial Island, Xiao Yu and the others were chatting and laughing merrily. They were extremely pleased with themselves. They felt that the first place was already a certainty. Moreover, there were 12 of them in total. Even mirage beasts wouldn't dare to attack them, so they were very relaxed. At this moment, someone noticed a figure in front of them flash and shouted loudly, "Junior Sister Xiao Yu, it's Yun Chujio." Xiao Yu suddenly stood up and saw that it was indeed Yun Chujio, who was standing in the distance. She probably noticed them and ran away. A trace of viciousness flashed in Xiao Yu's eyes. This slut was actually not eliminated? In that case, she would personally send her on her way. Chapter 4119 was running out of time. The people of the Flying Flower Island also stood up. Someone said, "Junior Sister Xiao Yu, just wait here. Let's go chase after her." Xiao Yu wished she could strangle Yun Chijio to death with her own hands. Naturally, she would not agree. She said, "5 people, chase after her with me. The rest of you, stand by and wait for orders." Everyone did not have any objections when they heard this. Against a mere Yun Chujio, 6 people were enough. Xiao Yu brought 5 people and chased closely behind. However, Yun Chuzhou was slippery, and she ran very fast. She was even more familiar with the terrain than they were. As she ran, she was boasting, "Xiaoyu, your flying flower island is really shameless. This is the first time I've seen such a shameless sect." But that's true. With such a shameless person like you, your flying flower island isn't any better? Chase me if you have the ability, then chase me. A bunch of trash. It'll anger you to death. Xiaoyu was about to explode from anger. In the blink of an eye, they had run nearly 10 li away. Yun Chuzhou stumbled as she ran and actually fell. Xiaoyu and the others naturally wouldn't let go of such a good opportunity. They immediately quickened their pace and pounced towards Yun Chuzhou. At this moment, a few large sacks were thrown down from the trees on both sides. The chili peppers inside were flying in all directions, accompanied by countless wind blade attacks. As for He Xinjiu, who fell, she had already stood up. As she released a hua, she took out a treasured sword and rushed in front of Xiaoyu. This fellow did not say a word and slashed at Xiaoyu. Due to the cover of the flying chili powder, He Xinjiu used the sword technique on the cliff. Xiaoyu was already choked to the point of tears. How could she be a match for her? In the blink of an eye, her face was scratched. When the wound touched the chili powder, the feeling was extremely refreshing. Xiaoyu was furious and afraid. She did not have time to think too much and activated her jade token. Once Xiaoyu activated her jade token, the other 5 people instantly lost their backbone. After a round of fighting, they also activated their jade tokens. Yun Chuzhou narrowed her eyes and said to Chu Fong and the others, "Let's go and deal with those 6 people." Chu Fong looked at the time. "Junior sister Yun, there's not much time left. We might not be able to deal with them. No matter what, we have to give it a try." Although Yun Chuzhou also felt that there was not enough time, she still had to give it a try. The remaining 6 people on the Flying Flower Island felt uneasy when they saw that Xiaoyu and the others had yet to return, but they also felt that nothing would happen. Just as they were hesitating, Yun Chuzhou and the others had already rushed over. If time allowed, Yun Chuzhou naturally wanted to split them up again and ambush them with chili powder, but there wasn't much time left, so she could only fight them head-on. In any case, they had the advantage in numbers. Even if they couldn't eliminate all of them, as long as one person was eliminated, Flying Flower Island's #1 spot would be gone. The 6 people from the Mystic Fog sect changed their previous unwillingness, as if they were injected with stimulants. As long as one person from Flying Flower Island was eliminated, their Mystic Fog sect would be #1. At that time, they would be the great heroes of the Mystic Fog sect, and their future prospects would be limitless. Although the 6 people from the Flying Flower Island did not know what had happened to Xiaoyu and the others, they knew that if one of them was eliminated, there would be no hope for them to be first. Hence, the 6 of them set up the Flying Flower Sword Formation. Although the Flying Flower Island Sword Formation was not as powerful as the Nameless Sword sects, it was not given for free. In an instant, it was a draw with Yun Chuzhou and the others. Chapter 4120 was completely eliminated. Although Yun Chuzhou had seen through the flaws of the Flying Flower Sword array, it would take at least an hour to break the array. By then, it would be too late. Yun Chuzhou gritted her teeth. Just as she was about to release a few rabbits, a huge beast roar came from afar. A person from the Xuanwu sect said with a bitter face, "It's over. It's over. Isn't this the mirage beast that was released? Is it here to take revenge on us? It seems that we have no hope of getting first place. Let's retreat." Yun Chuzhou said happily. "Help is here." Chu Fong and the others were dumbfounded. Help? It should be an assassin. Chu Fong and the others felt that Yun Chuzhou was most likely crazy. It was already good enough that this mirage beast did not take revenge on them, but it was still helping them? In their dreams, the people from the Flying Flower Island were overjoyed. It seemed that this mirage beast had a grudge with Yun Chuzhou and the others. They took the opportunity to eliminate a person from the mysterious Fog sect. The first place was still their Flying Flower Island. In the blink of an eye, the mirage beast had arrived in front of everyone. Yun Chuzhou said with a smile, "Come on, little baby. Help me kill these people. The Mirage Beast growled, and indeed rushed towards the Flying Flower Island's sword array. Chu Fong and the others were dumbfounded. Was it really here to help? Yun Chujio shouted at them. Are you all dumbfounded? Hurry up. Only then did everyone come back to their senses. They followed Yun Chujio's instructions and specifically attacked the weak points of the Flying Flower sword array. The people of the Flying Flower Island felt their heads buzzing. They really could not understand why this Mirage Beast would help Yun Chujio and the others. Furthermore, how could Yun Chujio easily determine the flaws of their Flying Flower sword array? Some of the flaws were not even known to them, all right? With the help of the Mirage Beast, the people of the Flying Flower Island quickly lost their ability to resist. They could only activate their jade tokens and be teleported out. At this moment, the atmosphere in the meeting hall of the Flying Flower Island was very stagnant. Although Sect Master Huang and the others were indignant, they couldn't turn the situation around. They could only stare at each other and wait for the final result. At this moment, a disciple of the Flying Flower Island ran in, reporting to Island Master, reporting to all the Sect Masters. 6 disciples of the Flying Flower Island have been eliminated. Currently, there are 14 people left on the Trial Island, 6 from the Flying Flower Island, 6 from the Mysterious Fog Sect, and 2 from the Nameless Sword Sect.
What?
Island Master Chi stood up immediately. 6 people from the Flying Flower Island had been eliminated? How was this possible? However, he quickly sat down. It was likely that the Mysterious Fog Sect and the Nameless Sword Sect had joined forces and fought together. Even if 6 people from the Flying Flower Island had been eliminated, the other party must have been severely injured. He believed that they would be eliminated very soon. The final champion would still be from the Flying Flower Island. The others had similar thoughts as him, and they did not have any expectations for the final result. Only Sect Master Chun of the Mysterious Fog Sect started to sweat profusely. He had some extravagant hopes in his heart. If one more person was eliminated from the Flying Flower Island, wouldn't the Mysterious Fog Sect become the champion? After a while, a disciple ran in panic, reporting to Island Master, reporting to all the Sect Masters. All the disciples of the Flying Flower Island have been eliminated. Currently, there are 8 people left on the Trial Island, 6 from the Mysterious Fog Sect, and 2 from the Nameless Sword Sect. Island Master Chi of the Flying Flower Island couldn't believe his ears. He stood up and asked, What? What did you say? The disciple said with some fear, Island Master, the last 6 people of our Flying Flower Island have also been eliminated. Island Master Chi was stunned for a moment and then sat down on the chair. How is this possible? Chapter 41-21. First place for a moment, Island Master Chi felt that he might have been hallucinating. He had planned so meticulously, so how could all of them be eliminated? If that was really the case, wouldn't he become the biggest joke? The others also revealed astonished expressions. The disciples of the Flying Flower Island had all been eliminated? Deserved it. They really deserved it. They were told to play a little trick, but this time, it was all for naught.
It was really satisfying.
Sect Master Chun of the Mysterious Fog Sect tried hard to suppress the corner of his mouth that was about to rise. There was no other reason. There were still 8 people on the Trial Island and there were 6 people in the Mysterious Fog Sect. No matter what, the first place did not run away.
Ha ha ha.
Those who were blessed did not need to be busy. Their Mysterious Fog Sect had picked up the first place. It was really good luck. The others were basically thinking the same. There was less than 15 minutes left until the end of the competition, and the overall situation was set. Master Ouyang was also in a good mood. If nothing unexpected happened, their Nameless Sword Sect should be able to get second place. This was already better than what he had expected. Just as everyone was thinking about it, another disciple came over and reporting to Island Lord, reporting to all Sect Masters. 5 disciples of the Mysterious Fog Sect have been eliminated. Currently, there are 3 people left on the Trial Island, 2 from the Nameless Sword Sect, and 1 from the Mysterious Fog Sect. Everyone, they had originally thought that the situation was set. Even if there were changes, 2 from the Nameless Sword sect would still be eliminated. However, 5 people from the Mysterious Fog sect had actually been eliminated? How is this possible? Sect Master Chen of the Mysterious Fog sect immediately had a very interesting expression on his face. He had originally thought that he would definitely be number 1. How? How did he lose? Those 6 disciples were actually able to stay until the end. They naturally had some ability. How did they end up being taken care of by the 2 people from the Nameless Sword sect? Moreover, it was said that Yun Chujio was just a passerby. How could they not even be able to defeat a passerby? Amidst everyone's astonishment, it was time for the trial to end. No matter how much they did not want to accept it, they could only accept the final result. No one had expected that the final result would actually be the Nameless Sword sect taking first place. Island Master Chi forced out a smile and said a few words of congratulations to Master Ouyang. The other sect leaders also echoed a few words of disagreement. Master Ouyang felt dizzy. How did he get first place? He didn't know why, but he had a feeling that the first place was most likely related to Yin Chuzhou. Island Master Chi looked at the smile on Master Ouyang's face with envy and jealousy. He clenched his fist and said, "Everyone, since the competition has ended, let's go and take a look." Everyone immediately followed Island Master Chi out of the meeting hall and went to the square, where the disciples of the trial were gathered. They also wanted to know what had happened in the last 4 hours and why the good situation of the Flying Flower Island had disappeared. Why were the 5 people of the Mysterious Fog sect eliminated in an instant? At this moment, in the square, the 6 people of the Mysterious Fog sect were looking at He Xinjiu with eager eyes. They lowered their voices and said, "Junior Sister Yun, we gave up the first place as you said. You should at least give us the antidote, right?" They were so aggrieved that they wanted to bang their heads against the wall. They were overjoyed when they saw that the people of the Flying Flower Island had been eliminated. The Mysterious Fog sect had become the first place. The 6 of them had become the great heroes of the Mysterious Fog sect. However, they heard Yun Chuzhou say faintly, "You have 2 choices. One is to be poisoned to death, and the other is to be the second place obediently." Chapter 4122 had been played. The 6 people of the Mysterious Fog sect could not believe what they had heard. When they saw Yun Chujia's sinister smile, they were so angry that they almost vomited blood. Shameless. Too shameless. How could there be such a shameless person as Yun Chujio in this world? After using them, she wanted to kick them away? That was too wicked. Yun Chujio sneered and said, "You're not convinced? If I hadn't encouraged you along the way, would you have lasted until now? You would have given up 100 times already. If it weren't for me, you would have been eliminated a long time ago. Would you still have the chance to flirt with me here? I've already given you a lot of face by letting one of you stay. If you continue to talk nonsense, get out." Although the 6 people of the Mysterious Fog sect were so angry that they gritted their teeth, for the sake of their lives, they could only follow Yun Chujia's instructions. 5 of them took the initiative to activate the Jade token, leaving only 1 person behind. The 6 people of the Mysterious Fog sect were gnashing their teeth as they recalled what had happened before, but they heard Yun Chuzhou giggle. Her smile was so bright that it could be called brilliant. The 6 people of the Mysterious Fog sect were scared stiff by her smile. What was wrong with this damn girl? It couldn't be that she didn't want to give them the antidote, right? Finally, Yun Chuzhou stopped laughing and said with a smile, "Senior brothers, I'm such a kind-hearted person. How could I do such a sinister thing as poisoning?" The 6 people of the Mysterious Fog sect were momentarily stunned. What did she mean? After a long while, one of them pointed at Yun Chuzhou in disbelief and said, You mean that the steamed bun is not poisonous at all? You've been lying to us?" Yun Chuzhou spread out her hands. "That's right. That steamed bun was not freshly wrapped by me. There's no way to poison it even if I wanted to." The 6 people from the Mysterious Fog sect were almost angered to death. Were they being played like monkeys? This Yun Chuzhou was really too wicked. They couldn't bear it any longer. Today they had to teach this wretched girl a lesson. Just as they were about to make a move, Yin Chuzhou said faintly. You want to make a move? You want to turn hostile? You should first weigh the weight before you say anything. I'm warning you. If you are not obedient, I guarantee that your second place will instantly vanish. If you don't believe me, let's give it a try. The 6 people of the mysterious fog sect were scared stiff. They had seen Yun Chuzhou's methods, so they didn't dare to take the risk. After all, the second place was not bad. Yun Chuzhou curled her lips. These 6 people were all cowards. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been tightly controlled by her. One of the people from the mysterious fog sect said, "All right, even if all these things can be written off, before we attacked the disciples of the Flying Flower Island, you once said that you wanted us to make a small fortune. Where is the money?" Yun Chuzhou curled her lips. "Because of you, I lost a boat. Because of you, I lost half a basin of steamed buns. Now that I think about it, you owe me a few million spirit stones. However, because you helped me take care of the people from the Flying Flower Island, I gave you this money as a gift. So, didn't you guys make a small fortune?" The 6 people from the mysterious fog sect. How could this be? Just go ahead and make a loss. Although they wished they could strangle Yun Chuzhou to death, they could only suffer in silence. Fortunately, they won second place in the end, and they would receive corresponding rewards when they returned to the sect. It was not too bad. However, they had a common understanding. If they met this stinky girl again in the future, they wouldn't cooperate with her no matter what. This girl was a devil that ate people and wouldn't spit out their bones. Chapter 4123. Leaving the island, the 6 people of the mysterious fog sect could do nothing to Yun Chuzhou, so they could only leave sullenly. Not long after they walked out, they heard Yun Chuzhou say in a clear voice, "Senior brothers, we can be considered acquaintances here. In the future, I will go to the mysterious fog sect to play with you." The 6 people immediately staggered. Play with them? They never wanted to see this devil again. Chu Feng, who was by the side, also trembled. He finally understood that this junior sister Yun was full of bad ideas. In the future, no one could offend her. He Xinjiu was in a good mood. Although her original intention was to make a small fortune, now that she had taken care of the Flying Flower Island and obtained the first place, it was simply wonderful. She had also made a great contribution this time. Maybe Old Man Ouyang would reward her well, and this would be a great help for her to become a successor disciple in the future. Just as this fellow was feeling happy, he noticed a sinister gaze staring at her. She looked over and saw Xiao Yu glaring at her angrily. Xiao Yu's face had already been treated with medicine. Although it wouldn't leave a scar, the first place had been destroyed by Yun Chuzhou. How could she not hate Yun Chuzhou? Of course, whether she hated or not didn't matter to He Xinjiu at all. Even if there was no incident that happened on Trial Island, this Xiao Yu still wanted to kill her, so why should she spoil her? Previously on Trial Island, Yun Chuzhou wanted to kill Xiao Yu, but this fellow thought that this was Flying Flower Island's territory. If she really killed Xiao Yu, it would be difficult for her to escape, so she gave up on the idea. Yun Chuzhou bared her white teeth at Xiao Yu and waved her little finger, nearly infuriating Xiao Yu to death. Just as Xiao Yu was about to rush over, Island Master Qi and the others arrived, so she could only give up. As the host, Island Master Qi said a few things and finally announced the results of the competition. Of course, when he announced that the Nameless Sword sect was the first place, his heart was bleeding. The first place was originally their Flying Flower Island, alright? Sect Master Huang and the others of Xuanji's sect were rather calm. Compared to letting the Flying Flower Island obtain the first place, it was better to let the Nameless Sword sect obtain it. After all, Island Master Qi was too sinister. Although Master Ouyang was used to big waves, he could not help but feel a little excited. The way he looked at Yun Chuzhou was so kind and gentle. The ranking of the competition was not just announced once. In the next period of time, it would be announced throughout the entire northern continent. The Nameless Sword sect would not have to worry about the number of disciples they would have in the next few years. Following that, it was the second half of the whale feast, where everyone was eating and drinking with their own thoughts. After a round of toasting, the various sects all bid their farewells. Island Master Chi was not in the mood to entertain everyone, so he immediately pretended to persuade them to stay and then sent the elders to send everyone off from the Flying Flower Island. Before she left, Xiao Yu found Yun Chuzhou and said with a crimson gaze, "Yun Chuzhou, don't be complacent. The Sword Technique Conference is in half a year's time. At that time, I will make you the laughingstock of the world." Yun Chuzhou said with a smile, "Thank you for your reminder. I will find an excuse not to participate. When the time comes, you can play by yourself." Xiao Yu, never in her dreams did she expect Yun Chuzhou to have such a reaction. She was simply angered to death. Yun Chuzhou ignored her and strolled along with Chu Feng and the others to board the ship. However, after walking for a distance, this fellow whispered to Chu Feng, "What is the Sword Technique Conference for? Is it a verbal contest? If that's the case, I'm not afraid of that little bitch Xiao Yu." Chu Feng. Chapter 41-24 was probably blind just now. The corner of Chu Feng's eyes twitched violently. Was the Sword Technique Conference a competition of words? To think that she could think of such a thing. However, he still said patiently, "Junior Sister Yun, the Sword Technique Conference is not a competition between sections. Instead, it is a registration of individuals. It is a grand event for swordsmen of the northern continent." Yun Chuzhou's words just now were nonsense. Naturally, she did not really think that the Sword Technique Conference was a competition of words. After hearing Chu Feng's words, she nodded. "Since it's a personal registration, then it's voluntary? I'm too lazy to join in the fun." Chu Feng still wanted to say something, but Yun Chuzhou had already jumped onto the deck. He shook his head and followed behind her. There were many disciples on the deck watching the scenery. After seeing Yun Chuzhou, many people came over to greet her. This time, the Nameless Sword Sect was able to obtain the first place because of Yun Chuzhou. Their views of Yun Chuzhou had naturally changed a lot. Yun Chuzhou greeted everyone with a smile. Everyone felt that Yun Chuzhou was a cheerful and kind little girl. Unfortunately, in Chu Feng's eyes, this girl was a sinister black lotus. At this moment, a few strange voices sounded. "Tessa? What's so great about it? It's just dog shit, luck. If Martial Uncle Zhuang didn't suffer an undeserved disaster, how could she be in the limelight?" That's right. Her spiritual power level is so low, and she thinks that she's so powerful. She might not have used some unspeakable means to win. That's right. Those 5 people from the Xuanwu sect gave up, for no reason. Thinking about it, there's something fishy going on here. Perhaps they took a fancy to her looks. Some people are really shameless in order to become famous. Maybe they have already. Hee hee. Yun Chuzhou originally did not take these dogs' bark seriously. However, the more they spoke, the more outrageous they became. In the end, they even slandered her innocence. If she could tolerate it, she would not be Yun Chuzhou anymore. Chu Feng could clearly feel the sudden murderous aura from Yun Chuzhou's body. He could not help but be shocked. Before he could react, Yun Chuzhou had already walked up to the people who were talking. When those people saw Yun Chuzhou's cold gaze, they could not help but feel a little guilty. However, they knew that Yun Chuzhou would not dare to do anything to them. Therefore, they said fearlessly, "Yun Chuzhou, what's wrong? Do you still want to fight? The sect leader and the elders are all here. If you fight, you won't have a good ending." The corner of Yun Chuzhou's mouth curled up slightly. "Fight?
You are not worthy."
Those people curled their lips, thinking that Yun Chuzhou was admitting defeat by saying this. However, they never expected that Yun Chuzhou would raise her hand and throw out several earth-shattering explosive talismans. Those disciples never dreamed that Yun Chuzhou would do this, so they were completely unprepared. After several loud explosions, not to mention those disciples and Zhuang Hong, even a large part of the deck had been blown off. The sea was red. The disciples were struggling and wailing in the sea. If it were not for their strong spiritual power, these talismans would have blown them into pieces. Even so, their injuries were not light, especially Zhuang Hong. He had not recovered from his injuries, so it would take him a few months to recover. Yun Chuzhou looked down at the disciples struggling in the sea, her eyes cold. This is a warning. If you slander me again, it will not be as simple as a few talismans. The disciples who thought that Yun Chujio was kind and cute closed their eyes silently. They seemed to be blind just now. Chapter 41-25. Clear Kill. Zhuang Hong's face, which had just been scarred, was blasted into pieces again. He shouted in exasperation, Yun Chujio, you've rebelled. You actually murdered your fellow disciples. Yun Chujio said coldly, you're wrong. This isn't murder, but clear kill. If you provoke me again, no matter who it is, I'll kill all of you. When Yun Chujio said this, her body was full of killing intent. Chu Fong and the others behind her couldn't help but shiver. They were also very puzzled. Yun Chujio's spiritual power was clearly much lower than theirs. Why was her aura so shocking at this moment? The loud explosion alarmed Master Ouyang and the others. However, the passage between the deck and the cabin of the ship was relatively narrow. Moreover, Master Ouyang and the few elders' rooms were in the innermost part of the ship, so they rushed over at this time. They looked at the gap in the deck, then looked at the injured Zhuang Hong and the others who were struggling in the sea. They were all dumbfounded. What happened? Elder Gu was the first to react. He quickly ordered his men to go down to the sea to save Zhuang Hong and the others. After some emergency treatment, Master Ouyang asked in a deep voice, what happened? Zhuang Hong gritted his teeth and said, Master, this Yun Chujio is going to turn the sky upside down. She used a bunch of talismans to blow us up like this. She is trying to take our lives. The other disciples also chimed in. That's right, Master. This Yun Chujio thinks that she has made a great contribution, so she is becoming more and more arrogant. We only discussed a few words about her, and she has already made such a deadly move. She is really too vicious. Master Ouyang frowned and looked at Yun Chujio. He saw that her small face was so gloomy that it seemed like it was going to drip. He could not help but feel slightly shocked. Usually, this little girl was always smiling mischievously. Why was it that today was different from usual? Yun Chujio, is what they said true? Yun Chujio glanced at Zhuang Hong and the others with a cold gaze. Then, she said indifferently, it was indeed me who did it. Master Ouyang's face darkened. Yun Chujio, if that's the case, do you know your crime for publicly harming your fellow disciples? Yun Chujio laughed a few times, but her laughter was indescribably sorrowful. Master Ouyang, I admit that my actions were a little extreme, but I was also acting out of a moment of anger. When I was on Hibiscus Island, Marshal Uncle Zhuang had occupied my courtyard. For the sake of the stability and unity of the sect, and to not lose face in front of the other sects, I silently concealed this matter. This wasn't a big deal. After all, I was a junior, and it was only right for me to let Marshal Uncle Zhuang have his way. However, not only did these people say that I was a good-for-nothing, they also slandered my character and ruined my reputation. No matter how thick-skinned I was still a little girl. I really couldn't stand their foul language. The most outrageous thing was that they attributed the victory of our Nameless Sword sect to their dirty tricks. They were ruining the reputation of our Nameless Sword sect. According to their words, it was normal for other sects to obtain the first place. Our Nameless Sword sect obtained the first place because I, Yun Chujio, did something shameful in exchange for it. They were simply a bunch of damn beasts. Sect Master, if it weren't for the sect rules and the friendship between us, I wouldn't have warned them so easily. These people are the scum of the Nameless Sword sect. They aren't worthy to be the disciples of the Nameless Sword sect. Sect Master, I'm done talking. I have no objections to how you punish me. I'm just a little uncomfortable. The honor that we fought so hard to obtain was actually trampled on like this. It's really chilling. After Yun Chujio said these words, her face was filled with grief and indignation. Her eyes were filled with tears, but she tried hard not to cry. Chapter 41-26 dealt with Yun Chujio on the deck. The disciples who were originally watching felt that they had misunderstood Yun Chujio. It wasn't that Yun Chujio was ruthless, but that Zhuang Hong and the others deserve to die. Why didn't they die from the explosion? A bunch of scum. Thus, the disciples all testified. Sect leader, junior sister Yun is right. What Martial Uncle Zhuang and the others said just now was very unpleasant. Not to mention a girl like junior sister Yun, even we found it hard to hear. Sect master, we can testify that this matter is indeed not junior sister Yun's fault. If it wasn't for Martial Uncle Zhuang and the others' provocation, junior sister Yun wouldn't have made a move. Also, Martial Uncle Zhuang did occupy junior sister Yun's courtyard previously. At that time, junior sister Yun was so wrong that she even cried. Yes, sect master, Martial Uncle Zhuang and the others provoked first. Junior sister Yun was also angry for a moment. Please give her a light punishment. Chu Feng also echoed a few sentences. He silently gave a thumbs up in his heart. Junior sister Yun's acting was simply superb. If he hadn't already seen her true nature, perhaps he would have been deceived by her too. Not to mention other things. Would junior sister Yun's black-hearted heart cry in anger? Unless the sun rose from the north. Master Ouyang was slightly surprised. He remembered that when he came, these successive disciples were still very ostracizing Yun Chuzhou. How come in just a few days, they were already speaking up for her? However, he was even more disappointed in Zhuang Hong. As a successive disciple of the sect master, he had stolen the junior's residence and publicly insulted his fellow disciples. It was really embarrassing. Master Ouyang felt that there was an 80% chance that there was something wrong with his judgment in accepting disciples. The eldest disciple was as honest as a block of wood. The younger disciple's thoughts were getting more and more crooked. Who should he pass the position of sect master to in the future? While Master Ouyang was deep in thought, Elder Wan said gloomily, Sect master, no matter what the reason is, Yun Chujia's actions are too excessive. We must punish her severely. Otherwise, if the other disciples follow her example, wouldn't it be chaotic? Elder Dongfang retorted, that's not true. If it wasn't for Zhuang Hong and the others' provocation, Yun Chuzhou wouldn't have made a move. She was just in a moment of anger. Besides, she knew what she was doing. Although it looked serious, they were just superficial wounds. They will recover after a few days. The disciples who were injured by Yun Chuzhou almost fainted from anger when they heard Elder Dongfang's words. What did he mean by it was just superficial wounds? Didn't he see that the seawater was dyed red? A few days of rest. They wouldn't be able to recover without a month. At this moment, Elder Gu said with a smile, Sect Master, Yun Chuzhou has made a great contribution this time. I think we should forget about this matter. After all, no one has died. At this moment, the disciples who had been blown up were even more furious. Hearing his words, they wished they were dead, right? The corner of Master Ouyang's eyes twitched. He sighed in his heart. It seemed that many people were very dissatisfied with this successive disciple of his. He had to consider it carefully. He thought for a moment. Then he said to Yun Chuzhou, although there is a reason for this, your actions are too reckless. How about this? You will compensate for the loss of this ship, and after you go back, you can go to the ancestral master's cave abode to think for a month. Do you have any objections? Yun Chuzhou nodded obediently. I accept the punishment. Zhuang Hong shouted from the side, Master, you can't be so biased toward her. Are you going to let her off so easily? Master Ouyang was already displeased with him. Now that he saw that he was not going to let him off, he felt even more displeased. He said coldly, Shut up. After you go back, you can recuperate in your courtyard. You don't need to leave the courtyard for the time being without my orders. Chapter 41-27. Who will be chosen as Master? Zhuang Hong looked at Master Ouyang in disbelief. He was clearly the victim. Why would he be grounded? However, when he saw Master Ouyang's gloomy expression, he did not dare to say anything. Instead, he looked at Yun Chuzhou viciously. However, he never expected that. Yun Chuzhou said clearly, Martial Uncle Zhuang, why are you looking at me? Don't tell me you want to apologize to me? Zhuang Hong. He felt that it was better for him to faint, so he closed his eyes and pretended to faint. Master Ouyang was too ashamed to look at his disciple, so he asked someone to carry him into the cabin. Then, he followed the elder of the Flying Flower Island to apologize and discuss compensation. The elder of the Flying Flower Island was dumbfounded. He originally thought that Yun Chuzhou was so bold that she injured several of her fellow disciples and might even be expelled from the Nameless Sword sect. Who would have thought that she would make such a fuss? How could the punishment be so light in the end? He had exchanged a few polite words with Master Ouyang. Naturally, he wouldn't really ask for any compensation. If word of this got out, wouldn't people laugh at the Flying Flower Island for being stingy? Yun Chuzhou listened from the side and immediately heaved a sigh of relief. She had saved another sum of money. A few days later, the flying spiritual artifact that everyone was riding arrived at the Nameless Sword sect. Yun Chuzhou went back to her own courtyard and took out the 3 puppet discs after she bathed and changed. Although she didn't use them this time, she was going to bring them with her the next time she went out. It was better to be safe than sorry. Those drifters were also suffocating inside. Once they were released, they would be jumping around. Yun Chuzhou couldn't be bothered with them. She held her chin and pondered about her next step. If she wanted to get close to the core of the Nameless Sword sect, it was impossible for her to become an inner disciple. She had to think of a way to become a successor disciple. However, who was she going to recruit as her master? Originally, she wanted to choose between Elder Duanmu and Elder Dongfeng. However, she could not infuse her sword intent into them, so she felt that it was a little difficult. After all, those 2 old men were sword forgers. It was impossible for her to take in a disciple who didn't know how to forge a sword. Elder Gu, that old man, wasn't bad, but they didn't have much interaction. Moreover, he already had Chu Feng, this proud disciple of his, so there was an 80% chance that he wouldn't take a fancy to her. This fellow thought about it for a long time and then turned his attention to Master Ouyang. Since he wanted to find a backer, he naturally had to find the biggest backer. Although Zhang Li was a little more spirited now, it was too difficult for him to become Master Ouyang's true disciple again. After all, Master Ouyang had to consider the feelings of the 5 elders who had been killed. As for Zhuang Hong, judging from the previous incident, Master Ouyang was already very disappointed in him. It was just that he lacked an opportunity. He would probably be removed from the sect soon. From the looks of it, wasn't this a great opportunity for her? With Master Ouyang as her backing, wouldn't she be able to do whatever she wanted in the Nameless Sword sect? It would be much more convenient if she wanted to get rid of Elder Wan and the others. Moreover, if Lan Luochen were to cause any more trouble, Master Ouyang would also protect her. It was simply a good deal that would bring her tens of thousands of benefits. The more she thought about it, the more she felt that this matter was feasible. She decided to visit Master Ouyang every day from now on. Unfortunately, this fellow's plan was disrupted the next day. The reason was very simple. It was because she had injured Zhuang Hong and the others in an explosion. Master Ouyang had said that after returning to the sect, he would let her go to the Nameless Ancestors' cave abode to reflect for a month. Then the discipline hall's people came to arrest her. Yun Chuzhou did not say anything. She only bought an hour, saying that she needed to prepare some things. The 2 discipline hall disciples knew that this fellow was difficult to deal with, so they turned a blind eye to it. Chapter 41-28. The bad idea of the drifters. Yun Chuzhou packed her things and did not bother about the murderous aura. This was because she felt that since they could enter the pool on a full moon night, they should be able to enter the pool on a normal day. However, when Yun Chuzhou was teleported to the Nameless Ancestral Master's cave abode, the drifters in her courtyard exploded. Although the drifters in the sword pool could enter the pool on a full moon night, they usually had no way to enter. Now that Yun Chuzhou is gone, how could they not be angry? Thus, the few disciples guarding the Nameless Ancestral Master's teleportation array were unlucky. They would fall to the ground whenever they had nothing to do. Some of them even lost their clothes when they woke up. It was like they had seen a ghost. Those few disciples were crying and crying for their positions to be changed. The few disciples who were changed in the end suffered the same fate. Therefore, everyone said that the teleportation formation in the ancestral master's cave abode was most likely haunted. After Master Ouyang and the elders received the report, they simply scoffed at it. This was nonsense. It was probably because those disciples were not strong-willed and had inner demons. Seeing that they still could not save Yun Shiju, the drifters came up with a bad idea. That morning, Master Ouyang and the others were discussing something in the meeting hall. Elder Wan's identity jade plate trembled. After he sent his spiritual sense in, he stood up immediately. Something happened in the sword pool. Everyone was shocked. To be able to surprise Elder Wan so much, it meant that the matter was not trivial. What happened? Master Ouyang asked. Manager Li said that all the sword lights in the sword pool have disappeared. What? Everyone was stunned. How? How could the sword lights have disappeared? The reason why the sword pool was the cornerstone treasure of the nameless sword sect was that the sword pool could produce sword lights. Without sword lights, the sword pool would just be a pool full of precious swords. Therefore, they didn't bother to discuss the previous matter and rushed to the sword pool. Manager Li came up with sweat all over his head and said in a panic, "Just now, I brought people to inspect the sword pool, but they found that all the sword lights in the sword pool had disappeared." Master Ouyang didn't bother to ask more questions and immediately brought people to the edge of the sword pool. There were still countless treasured swords piled up in the sword pool, but there was not a single ray of sword light. How did the sword light disappear? Master Ouyang's head buzzed. He felt that his position as the sect master had most likely come to an end. If the sword pool was destroyed in his hands, he would not have the face to continue being the sect master. Even if Elder Wan had the intention to usurp the throne, he did not want anything to happen to the sword pool. After all, without the sword pool, the strength of the nameless sword sect would be greatly reduced. Master Ouyang managed to calm himself down and asked, "Think about it carefully. Have there been any abnormalities in the sword pool recently?" Manager Li thought for a moment and then shook his head. "Everything is normal. There isn't the slightest abnormality." Master Ouyang called over the other disciples of the sword pool to ask, and they all gave the same answer. Then the question was, why did the sword light suddenly disappear? Elder Duanmu said from the side, "Didn't we suddenly lose half of the sword light before? Could it be because we don't have enough swords? Why don't we ask the forging sword hall to throw the swords into the pool in advance?" Master Ouyang had no other choice now. He immediately asked his people to throw the newly forged swords into the sword pool, but there was still no reaction. Everyone's heart was shrouded in a layer of shadow. It was over. The nameless sword sect was finished. Chapter 41:29 Sword light was restored. The scene was deathly silent. How could this fine sword light be gone? Master Ouyang and the other elders were so worried that they wanted to bang their heads against the wall, but they couldn't think of a reason. They had originally wanted to seal this matter, but for some reason, it had spread out. Not only did the disciples and the sect know, but even the other sects knew about the disappearance of the sword light. The other sects were naturally gloating. They deserved it. To let your nameless sword sect obtain the first place in the whale feast, isn't this the end of joy leading to sorrow? Seeing this, Master Ouyang directly went to the entire sect to collect methods. As long as someone could restore the sword light, he would be rewarded with 100,000 sect contribution points. Under the weight of money, there would definitely be brave men. Thus, all kinds of methods were presented to Master Ouyang. Master Ouyang was so angry that he almost vomited blood when he saw those strange methods. Some said that the sword light in the sword pool was gone because it was used to illuminate at night, so night pearls were placed on the edge of the sword pool at night to illuminate. Some said that something that could swallow the sword light must have appeared in the sword pool, so they suggested that Master Ouyang send someone into the sword pool to check. Some said that the sword light in the sword pool disappeared because there were female disciples who participated in the sword forging. They suggested that the female disciples who participated in the sword forging kneel at the edge of the sword pool to beg for forgiveness. Master Ouyang was so angry that he was twitching. Were these people all pig-headed? However, when he saw one of the suggestions, he was stunned for a moment. This sword intent was proposed by Chu Fong. He said that before the earth fire in the lower house's sword forging hall had a problem, Yun Chuzhou had said that she had received some advice from the nameless patriarch. Now, she was thinking about it in the ancestral master's cave abode. Regarding the disappearance of the sword light, could she have received some advice from the nameless grandmaster? In addition, the disciple who was guarding the teleportation array in the ancestral master's cave abode had encountered some unexpected circumstances. Could it be a premonition? Although Master Ouyang felt that this suggestion was not very reliable, he could only try his best. What if that Yun Chuzhou really received some advice from the ancestral master? Thus, Master Ouyang immediately ordered people to release Yun Chuzhou from the nameless ancestral master's cave abode. He Xinjiu was still puzzled. It had only been 7 or 8 days. How could she be released early? Old man Ouyang's conscience had been discovered. Just as this fellow was puzzled, he was directly brought to the sword pool. There were many people surrounding the sword pool. Master Ouyang and the elders were all present, and their faces were very gloomy. He Xinjia's heart sank. This fellow's first reaction was, could it be that the drifters had been discovered? However, she immediately felt that it was unlikely. Putting aside the fact that the drifters' whereabouts were mysterious and difficult to discover, even if they were discovered, they wouldn't be able to connect it to her. Then, what was going on? Just as this fellow was feeling uncertain, Master Ouyang asked, Yun Chuzhou, did you receive any advice from the nameless ancestral master in the cave abode this time? Master Ouyang couldn't help but sigh when he saw Yun Chu shaking her head in a daze. Forget it. It seems that there's no way to resolve this disaster. As the sect master, I can't escape the blame. Master Ouyang was about to say something like leaving the sect when he heard someone exclaim, Sword light. The sword light is back. Master Ouyang immediately swallowed back the words of leaving the sect master and jumped to the front like a rabbit. The sword light that had disappeared in the sword pool returned to normal. Moreover, because he had thrown a newly forged sword into it, the sword light seemed to have increased a little more than before. Chapter 41:30 The floater, who was scolded the scene, was filled with jubilation. This was great. The sword light had been restored. Their nameless sword sect was saved. Master Ouyang was in tears. He was about to resign, but he did not expect the sword light to return. It was truly a blessing from the heavens. Elder One did not know what to feel. He was naturally happy that the sword light had been restored, but he was just a little bit away from Master Ouyang's resignation. Now, it was all for naught. He felt a little frustrated. The one who was the most confused was naturally He Xinjiu. It was not easy for her to find out what had happened from Manager Li. For some reason, he felt that the disappearance of the sword light was most likely caused by the drifters. Just as he was thinking about it, he saw 2 drifters jumping around in an inconspicuous corner. They seemed to be taking credit. This guy narrowed his eyes. Claiming credit? Could it be that they had made such a fuss just to let her out? She recalled that she had not seen any trace of the drifters in the past few days. Could it be that they could only float in on a full moon? They could not find her, so they thought of such a stupid idea? Yun Chuzhou did not know whether she should be flattered or angry at the wayward behavior of these drifters. Therefore, she glared at the 2 drifters fiercely and then withdrew her gaze. The 2 drifters were very confused. They were the representatives of the sword pool drifters and the native drifters who came from afar. They had specially come here to claim credit from Yun Chuzhou. Who would have thought that they would receive an angry glare? It was simply too aggrieved. At this moment, the jubilant crowd calmed down slightly. Now that the key question was placed in front of everyone, how did the sword light suddenly recover? Some people looked at Yun Chuzhou. If there was anything different today, it was that Yun Chuzhou was released. However, was it really related to her? How could a little girl like her be related to the sword light? However, regardless of whether it was related to her or not, Master Ouyang felt that Yun Chuzhou was his lucky star. He looked at her kindly and asked a few questions with concern before leaving. Yun Chujio returned to the courtyard with a dumbfounded look. The moment she entered the courtyard, the drifters gathered around her. They were so excited that words could not describe them. Yun Chujio took a deep breath and asked, "Was it you guys who caused the disappearance of the sword light?" These drifters did not know that their accomplices were being glared at. Therefore, they were all showing off, indicating that they were the ones who did this good deed. Hurry up and praise them. Yun Chujio clenched her teeth as she looked at them begging for praise. She said word by word, "Next time, if you don't make decisions without my permission, I will plant lotus flowers in this courtyard and isolate all of you outside." The drifters were dumbfounded. They were being kind-hearted. Why would they be scolded? It was too unfair, wasn't it? Yun Chujio looked at the listless faces of the drifters and said coldly, "Do you feel wronged? Do you feel that I've wronged you?" The drifters trembled. It was true. It wasn't easy for them to save her. It was fine if they weren't grateful, but they actually scolded them. This was too much. Yun Chujio glanced at them and said, "The sword pool is the foundation of the nameless sword sect. Countless pairs of eyes are staring at the sword pool. If you are careless, your small actions will be discovered. When that time comes, will there still be a place for you to stand? Don't tell me how awesome you are. If you were that awesome, you wouldn't have to rely on the puppets to move around once the nameless sword is broken. Once the sword pool is destroyed or you are targeted, you'll fall into a hopeless situation. A bunch of idiots. Get lost." Chapter 4131. The drifters who ran away in anger after Yun Chujio finished scolding them. She ignored the drifters and went straight into the house. The drifters in the courtyard were all drooping their heads. They were clearly confused by the scolding. In the end, they all flew away in anger. It was as if they had broken off all ties with Yun Chujio. After a while, when Yun Chujio came out, she saw that the drifters in the courtyard had all flown away. She snorted coldly and even threw a tantrum. She wanted to see how long these drifters could last. Buttface said, "Little fairy, I'll bet 1 day." Xiao Hanio glared at her. "I'll bet 2 days." Meng Yanshou stared at the notebook in his hand and said, "I'll bet 3 days." Yun Chujio took a bite of the spirit fruit and said indifferently, "I'll bet 2 hours. Maybe they'll all come back in an hour." Buttface and the others naturally didn't believe it. Apparently, the drifters thought that Yun Chujio was really angry because she bit Lu Dongbin. How could they be appeased in an hour? However, in less than an hour, the drifters flew back and surrounded Yun Chujio intimately. Buttface and the others were dumbfounded. These drifters were really forgetful. How could they forget their unhappiness in such a short time? Buttface had a look of admiration on his face. "Little fairy, you are really amazing. How did you know that they would float back?" Yun Chujio glanced at the drifters and curled the corners of her lips. "What I said was for their own good. They are not stupid. Once they understand, they will naturally not be angry." Buttface was stunned. That was true. Although this little girl had scolded these drifters, she was also afraid that they would cause trouble. On the surface, she looked down on these drifters, but in her heart, she still cared about them. However, why did these murderous auras like this little girl so much? Could it be that they liked bad people just like it? The storm in the nameless sword sect gradually calmed down with the recovery of the sword light. The next day, Yun Chujio jumped in front of Master Ouyang. Master Ouyang now had a good impression of Yun Chujio, so his attitude was very kind. After asking about her well-being, he asked, "Why did you come to see me?" Yun Chujio shamelessly lied. "Master Ouyang, I learned 3 moves from the Ancestral Master's cave. I want to show you." Master Ouyang immediately stood up. "You learned 3 more moves? You ate poisonous mushrooms again?" Yun Chujio. She had dug a hole for herself, so she had to jump into it with tears in her eyes. So she nodded bitterly. Yes, I ate a few more mushrooms." After she said that, she saw Master Ouyang's expression was a little strange. How could she know that Master Ouyang was silently shouting in his heart, You are a lone wolf. Can't you leave a few poisonous mushrooms for them to taste? What if they could also comprehend a few sword moves after eating the poisonous mushrooms? However, he would naturally not reveal his identity. He only asked Yun Chujio to demonstrate the 3 moves that she had just learned. Yun Chujio immediately picked 3 moves from the rock wall sword technique and demonstrated them once. Master Ouyang turned pale with fright. Although these 3 moves looked very ordinary, based on his attainments in sword techniques, he could see that these 3 moves were even more profound than the previous 3 moves. Immediately, Master Ouyang and Yun Chujio began to discuss these 3 moves. The older and the younger they chatted, the more they got along. In addition, He Xinjiu observed their expressions and occasionally flattered them. Master Ouyang simply felt that the little girl in front of him was too pleasing to the eye. Chapter 4132. I will not accept her as my disciple. Yun Chujio was well aware of the principle of casting a long line to catch a big fish, so she did not go overboard. After a while, she took the initiative to take her leave. Master Ouyang felt that this little girl had a sense of propriety. She knew when to advance and when to retreat. She was 100 times stronger than his 2 disciples. In the next few days, Yun Chujio would run to Master Ouyang's courtyard whenever she had nothing to do. Sometimes, she would even have lunch with him. Soon, rumors began to spread within the sect. Master Ouyang thought so highly of Yun Chujio. Could it be that he wanted to take her as a disciple? Zhuang Hong, who had been ordered to recuperate in the courtyard, could no longer sit still. However, he did not dare to leave the courtyard because of Master Ouyang's orders. He was so anxious that he was about to hit the wall. In the end, he could only send a message to some of his good disciples, asking them to think of a way to find out more information. Elder Duanmu was also a little restless. Although he was not sure whether he should take Yun Chujio as a disciple, he felt a little awkward when he heard that Master Ouyang might take Yun Chujio as a disciple. Therefore, after he had talked business with Master Ouyang that day, he asked tentatively, Master, recently, there are rumors in the sect that you want to take Yun Chujio as a disciple? Master Ouyang was stunned for a moment before he smiled and said, Nonsense. Recently, that little girl has indeed been looking for me. She just wants to ask me for some sword techniques. This little girl is extremely good, but I can't take her as my disciple. Elder Duanmu was stunned. Why is that? Master Ouyang sighed. Although this Yun Chujio's sword techniques are not bad, her spiritual power is too low. Moreover, she has a heavenly thunder spirit root. Although she is lucky, it's hard to guarantee that she will be killed by the Tian Dao one day. Most importantly, my disciple will most likely succeed as the sect master in the future. Yun Chujio is a woman. The people of the Nameless Sword sect will definitely not accept a female sect master. Therefore, I will not accept her as my disciple no matter what. Elder Duanmu thought about it and agreed. The northern continent had always prioritized boys over girls. There was not even a female elder in the sect, let alone a woman as the sect master. Therefore, one day, when Yun Chujio went to find Elder Duanmu, he tactfully told her about Master Ouyang's intentions so that she wouldn't be too disappointed if her expectations were too high. Yun Chujio smiled and said a few perfunctory words, but in her heart, she gritted her teeth. What's wrong with a woman? She had to try being a female sect leader. On this day, Zhao Hui, Li Zhuangji, and the others rushed over. Junior Sister Yun, something bad has happened. Yun Chujio frowned. What's wrong? Isn't it time for the inter-sect competition in a few days? That Liao Tao has allied with many disciples. When the time comes, they will take turns to challenge you, vowing to drag you down from the top 100, Zhao Hui said worriedly. Yun Chujio said indifferently, Isn't that simple? When the time comes, I'll just admit defeat. It's not like I have to be in the top 100. Last time, if it weren't for the spot for the Eye of Sword Intent, I wouldn't have bothered to enter the top 100. Zhao Hui, Li Zhuangji, that's right. Why didn't they think of this? Alright, Junior Sister Yun had always had a different thought from the average person. In the intersect competition a few days later, Liao Tao had mobilized a large number of people to seek revenge. However, he didn't expect Yun Chuzhou to say lightly, "I admit defeat." "You win." Liao Tao, it could not be played like that. He had been suffering for a month and racked his brains to come up with all sorts of plans. In the end, she admitted defeat so easily. Why did he feel like a fool? Chapter 4133. Tao Tai's Ghost City. On the other side, Yun Chuzhou had recently discovered something interesting. This fellow had been worrying about not having any way to increase the actual combat experience of his spirit pets that couldn't be seen in the light. After all, every sect mission had other disciples, and there seemed to be very few secret realms in Atlas Continent. He also didn't have the opportunity to train alone. But now, this problem had been solved. That day, she saw Buttface playing with the drifters and suddenly had an idea. These drifters were the best choice for sparring. So, Xiao Hanio and the others were released and began to fight with the drifters bitterly. The drifters were happy. Although they were willing to play with Yun Chuzhou, it was okay to have a beast to play with. The kitten used its claws to fight with the drifters as it thought bitterly to itself. It was a white tiger, but now it had fallen to such a state. If it had known this would happen, it would not have provoked this jinx. However, it was too late now. It could only do its best to please this jinx. Otherwise, the original body of the fool would devour it. It was unknown when this wretched girl would learn the soul transformation technique. When would such days end? It was really too miserable. Of course, there was something even more miserable than the kittens, and that was the giant winged birds. They had agreed to find an island for them to settle down on, but it had already been so long, and they were still bitterly cooped up in the spirit beast pouch. What a liar! Yun Chuzhou was actually also anxious, but there was nothing she could do. Previously, the 2 seas she had been to were forbidden from flying, so there was no way to release these giant winged skimmers. This fellow pondered in her heart. If there was an opportunity, she would take on another mission to the seaside and try to release these giant winged skimmers. In the following period of time, other than cultivating, Yun Chuzhou practiced sword techniques. Although she could no longer comprehend sword intent, under the training of those drifters, her movement techniques were much faster. On this day, Chu Fong came to look for her. Ever since they returned from the Flying Flower Island, Chu Fong and Yun Chuzhou were very close. They would come over to chat with Yun Chuzhou every now and then. Junior sister Yun, the ghost market of Tao Tai is about to open. Do you want to go and have a look? Chu Fong said excitedly. Yun Chuzhou was dumbfounded. What the hell was the ghost market of Tao Tai? Chu Fong saw Yun Chuzhou's blank face. He explained, the ghost city of Tao Tai is a grand auction jointly organized by all the auction houses in the northern continent. It's held once every 5 years in the ghost city. There will be many good items to be auctioned there. Although they may not be able to afford it, it's still good to have an eye-opening experience. Yun Chuzhou's interest was piqued when she heard that. Other things were fine, but it would be great if she could get some pill formulas or talisman formulas. Senior brother Chu, we won't be able to go without the clan exit token. Chu Fong smiled mysteriously. Normally, we won't be able to go, but my master wants to go, so I can broaden my horizons. Aren't you very familiar with Elder Duanmu and Elder Dongfang? You can just beg them to bring you along when they go. Yun Chuzhou's eyes suddenly lit up. That's right, she still had those 2 backers. However, senior brother Chu, where's this ghost city? Why is it called a ghost city? Also, why is this auction called the ghost city of Tao Tai? For the first time, Chu Fong felt that he knew more than Yun Chuzhou. He felt a strange sense of self-satisfaction and straightened his back. Only then did he tell her everything he knew. Chapter 4134 had a request. As you know, the strong are respected in the northern continent. Therefore, even if many auction houses joined forces, they were afraid that someone would cause trouble during the auction. Therefore, they set up the auction venue in the Ghost City. The Ghost City was an isolated city in the Sea of Death. No one could tell when it appeared. The most special thing about it was that no matter how high your spiritual power was, your spiritual power would be suppressed at the psychic level. Therefore, if we set up the ghost city of Tao Tai there, the people from the auction house would not be afraid of anyone causing trouble as long as they send enough people, Chu Fong said. Yun Chuju nodded. These auction houses were really thoughtful. It made sense. If there was something extraordinary, it was inevitable that some people would take the risk. However, if they were in the ghost city, with the suppression of spiritual power, everyone's level would be about the same. It would be much easier. Senior Brother Chu, I still don't quite understand one thing. Although everyone's spiritual power is about the same in the ghost city, wouldn't everything be the same outside the ghost city? If someone can get something good, wouldn't they be targeted once they leave the ghost city? Yun Chujo asked, puzzled. Chu Fong was amused. Of course not. Before entering the ghost city, everyone will be given a special mask, a black robe, and a voice-changing pill. No one will be able to see your true identity. Even the people of the ghost market won't know your real identity. At that time, they will only recognize the number plate you bought and not the person. Yun Chujo clicked her tongue in wonder. It had to be said that the organizer of the ghost market of Tao Tai was really thoughtful. She was getting more and more interested in the ghost market of Tao Tai. Senior Brother Chu, by the way, because it's held in the ghost city, it's called the ghost market. Why is it called the ghost market of Tao Tai? Because Tao Tai eats everything. The reason why it's called the ghost market of Tao Tai is to show that the auction is all-inclusive, Chu Fong said with a smile. Hearing this, Yun Chujo cursed in her heart. All-inclusive? The one she raised only eats spirit stones. It's so annoying. Of course, this fellow was just thinking about it and wouldn't say it out loud. The two chatted for a while more before Chu Fong left. Yun Chujo thought for a moment and hopped into Elder Duanmu's courtyard. After greeting Elder Duanmu, this fellow helped to clean the courtyard and wipe the sword. He was like a hard-working bee. Elder Duanmu scolded with a smile. Tell me, what do you want to ask of me? He Xinjiu laughed dryly. You are really smart. I really have something to ask of you. Elder Duanmu looked at her speechlessly and thought to himself, such a lazy person was suddenly so diligent. Naturally, he had something to ask of her. Seeing that Elder Duanmu seemed to be in a good mood, Yun Chujo continued, Elder Duanmu, I heard that the ghost market of Tao Tai is about to open. Can you bring me there to broaden my horizons? Elder Duanmu frowned. It's not impossible to bring you there, but you have to promise to be obedient and not to stir up trouble. You have to know that in Ghost City, my spiritual power will be suppressed at the psychic level. If you stir up trouble, I might not be able to protect you. Hearing this, Yun Chujo immediately promised to be obedient and not to stir up trouble. Elder Duanmu agreed, because he felt that although the little girl in front of him was usually a little jumpy, with him watching her, she should not cause any trouble. 3 days later, Elder Duanmu and the others set off for the ghost city. To Yun Chujia's surprise, the Nameless Sword sect did not send many people to the ghost city of Tao Tai. Only Elder Duanmu, Elder Dongfang, and Elder Gu went there. Chapter 4135, Ghost City. However, Yun Chujo quickly figured out the reason behind it. The items auctioned in the ghost market of Tao Tai were nothing more than medicinal pills, herbs, materials, spirit tools, and the like. The Nameless Sword sect mainly focused on sword training, so they were naturally not very interested in these things. Moreover, the items auctioned in the ghost market of Tao Tai were all high-end items with high prices, so they could not afford to buy them even if they went. Moreover, it would take them less than a month to make a round trip to the ghost market. If they had the time, they might as well practice their swordsmanship. Elder Duanmu and Elder Dongfang went there for the materials to practice their swordsmanship. As for Elder Gu, he was just there to watch the show. Of course, if there were suitable ones, he might be able to buy some. Therefore, the Nameless Sword sect only sent 5 people to the Tao Tai's ghost market. Elder Duanmu, Elder Dongfang, Elder Gu, Chu Fong, and He Xinjiu. The journey was very smooth. On this day, the 5 of them arrived at the edge of the desert of death. Yun Chuju looked at the endless desert in front of her. She complained in her heart that it was very tiring to participate in an auction. This lousy place forbade flying, so she could only walk inside. She didn't know how far the ghost city was from the edge of the desert. The temperature of the desert of death was very high. The scorching sun was so hot that it almost roasted people. Fortunately, He Xinjiu had the beads of Guai Chao, so she didn't suffer too much. As the ghost market was about to open, many people came to participate in the ghost market of Tao Tai. As soon as Yun Chujiu and the others entered the desert, they met several groups of people from other sections. The crowd began to exchange greetings. The atmosphere was quite good, but it was also true. They had to rely on their own financial resources to bid for anything, so they naturally didn't need to offend people. After walking for a while, Chu Fong said excitedly, "Junior sister Yun, look. That should be the ghost city." Yun Chujiu looked in the direction Chu Fong pointed and vaguely saw the outline of a city. She heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, it was not very far. Even though it was not far, they still walked for nearly 4 hours before reaching the ghost city. Initially, Yun Chujiu thought that the ghost city must be in tatters. She did not expect that the ghost city was magnificent. It was not inferior to the other cities she had seen. In fact, it was even more majestic. However, Yun Chujiu's gaze fell on the city wall. To be exact, it was on the big rocks that were used to build the city wall. These big rocks were actually made of the same material as the rocks that she had gotten from the stone city. They were all huge Xian stones. These were all good things. Chu Fong saw that Yun Chujiu was staring blankly at the city wall of the ghost city. Moreover, she even revealed a malicious smile. He was immediately shocked. What kind of evil scheme was junior sister Yun up to? It wasn't Chu Fang's fault. The main thing was that Yun Chujiu's image as a black lotus was deeply rooted in his heart. Therefore, when Yun Chujiu revealed such a sinister smile, he felt that she was up to no good. He was afraid that Yun Chujiu would cause trouble, so he coughed and said, "Junior Marshal Sister Yun, come and queue up." Yun Chujiu turned her head and realized that because there were more people entering the ghost city, everyone had to queue up to enter the city. Moreover, everyone who entered the ghost city had to pay 1,000 upper-grade spirit stones, ostensibly to repair the ghost city. Yun Chujiu thought to herself, this was really a golden way to make a fortune. One had to pay money to enter the city, and it was said that one had to pay money to enter the ghost city. The people who organized the ghost city of Tao Tai really made a lot of money. Yun Chujiu followed Chu Fong into the ghost city, and almost the moment she stepped into the ghost city, she felt a cool feeling. Yun Chujiu couldn't help but click her tongue in wonder. It was extremely hot outside the city, but inside the ghost city, it was very cool, making people feel relaxed and happy. Many cultivators had gathered in the ghost city in advance, and many people had set up stalls on both sides of the road, enthusiastically hawking and soliciting business. Chu Fong saw Yun Chujiu looking around curiously and explained, "These vendors also have to pay a certain fee to set up their stalls. However, due to the large number of customers, they will definitely make a profit without losing anything." Hearing this, Yun Chujiu felt that the people of the ghost city of Tao Tai would make money. However, she was soon attracted by the delicacies on both sides of the road. Seeing this, Elder Duanmu said to Chu Fong and Yun Chujiu, "You two go around and find us at the King of Hell's residence." Chu Fong had come here with Elder Gu before, so he knew the location of the King of Hell's residence. He immediately nodded and agreed. With the elders by his side, he felt a little uncomfortable. Pialpha Dialpha Nu Iota after Elder Duanmu and the other two left, Yun Chujiu and Chu Fong strolled down the street. Chu Fong had thought that a little girl like Yun Chujiu would be interested in some of the decorative spirit tools that women liked. Who would have thought that this fellow would be interested in food? In a short while, this foodie bought a huge pile of food. Fortunately, she had a storage ring. Otherwise, they would not be able to carry it. While He Xinjiu was shopping, she saw a noisy crowd in front of her. There were many people gathered in front of a shop, and there were excited noises mixed in. Chu Fong saw that she was interested, so he said with a smile, "That's an egg gambling den." Although there are other places in the northern continent occasionally, they are not as big as the egg gambling den in Ghost City. Yun Chujio was dumbfounded. Egg gambling den? She had heard of stone gambling in the past. What was this egg gambling den? Seeing Yun Chujio's puzzled face, Chu Fong continued, "The sand sea of death produces a kind of stone that looks very similar to a demon beast egg. It's called a dark spirit egg. The outer shell of this dark spirit egg is very special. It can isolate spiritual sense and spiritual power from probing, so no one can probe the situation inside each dark spirit egg. Please visit Pand 1. Co. Of course, what everyone was most interested in was the dark spirit stone inside the dark spirit egg. This kind of dark spirit stone was similar to a spirit stone, but it was much more precious than a spirit stone. An average quality dark spirit stone could contain spiritual energy that was equivalent to hundreds of top-grade spirit stones. A high-quality dark spirit stone could even be equivalent to tens of thousands of top-grade spirit stones. Therefore, the egg gambling den has a lot of dark spirit eggs to sell. After you buy them, you might become rich overnight, or you might even spend a lot of spirit stones for nothing." Yun Chujio suddenly understood. Wasn't this the same principle as betting on raw jade stones? What they were betting on was people's greed. In short, the egg gambling den was the one that would definitely make a profit without losing anything. Yun Chujio was not interested in this. If she had the time, she might as well buy more food. There was a lot of food sold in this ghost city, but she had never eaten it before. She felt that this trip to the ghost city was worth it. This guy was planning to leave with Chu Fong, but he suddenly felt very hungry. He was so hungry that he could eat a whole cow in one bite. Yun Chujio was dumbfounded. She had eaten all the way, and she was stuffed. Why was she suddenly so hungry? She quickly took out a bag of pastries that she had just bought and ate them all, but she was still very hungry. What was wrong with her? Chu Fong was dumbfounded. Junior sister Yun's appetite was too big, wasn't it? That bag of pastries weighed 2 to 3 jin, and she ate them all just like that? If she had already eaten all the way, while Yun Chujio was still in a daze, Buttface, who was in the spirit beast bag, said, "Little fairy, this is the work of that glutton, Tao Tai." Yun Chujio immediately became angry. Didn't I just feed it a lot of spirit stones a few days ago? Why is it still hungry? Little fairy, this fellow is a glutton. Although it's full, it will still be hungry when it sees something it likes to eat. That dark spirit egg is its favorite food. Think of a way to get some for it. Otherwise, it won't stop eating. Dog, too, laughed evilly. Little fairy, do you know why that idiot likes to eat dark spirit eggs? It's because it feels that eating dark spirit eggs is very suspenseful. Every time it eats a dark spirit egg, it's an adventure, right? Of course, the spiritual energy in the dark spirit stone is indeed very awesome. It's much purer than the spiritual energy in the spirit stone. Yun Chujio was so angry that she was twitching. If she couldn't do anything to Dahua, she would have beaten it into a meat paste. Eat, eat, eat. You only know how to eat all day. Can't you think of something meaningful? This guy cursed a few times in his heart. He felt that these words were scolding him, so he used his spiritual sense to say to Dahua embarrassedly, "Calm down. Isn't it just that dark spirit egg? I'll buy a bunch of it for you." Almost as soon as Yun Chujio finished speaking, that torturous hunger disappeared. He Shinjio was so angry. There was no other master in the world who was more aggrieved than her. Whether it was Guai Chao, Black Bead, Great Void Mirror, or Dahua, all of them were like masters. She was just a little servant. Fuck, well, just wait and see. Sooner or later, we'll have to pay for what we've done. Chu Fong, who was standing at the side, saw Yun Chujio gnashing her teeth. He was completely dumbfounded. What was wrong with junior sister Yun? Was she really going crazy? Just as he was in a daze, Yun Chujio lifted her leg and walked towards the direction of the egg gambling den. Yun Chujio vaguely agreed. The two of them squeezed through the crowd with great difficulty and finally squeezed to the front. Just as Yun Chujio was about to say that she wanted to buy a dark spirit egg, she saw a fat man laughing loudly. 2-star dark spirit stone, haha. My dark spirit egg has obtained 2-star dark spirit stone. Immerse. Yun Chujio followed the fat man's finger and looked over. She saw that there was a dark spirit egg that had been stripped of its shell on the stone platform. That dark spirit stone was shiny and shiny. On the test pillar beside the stone platform, there were 2 stars. Yun Chujio felt hungry again. She was so angry. Da Hua was such a glutton. No wonder he turned into a pig. Fuck, he was a pig. The crowd looked at the fat man with envy and jealousy. They were discussing among themselves. Tsk, he is so lucky. He only spent 1,000 upper-grade spiritual stones to buy this dark spirit egg with the lowest price. The 2-star dark spirit stone that he got is worth 200,000 upper-grade spiritual stones. He has made a fortune. That's why this gambling egg is a good way to make a fortune. His egg is only a 2-star dark spirit stone. If this is a 5-star dark spirit stone, oh my god, he's really struck it rich. That's easy for him to say. Not to mention 5 stars. Even this 2-star egg isn't so easy to come by. So he just needs to watch the show. Otherwise, he'll have to pay with his entire fortune. Although a few people remained sober, the vast majority of people were still blinded by greed. They scrambled to hand over the money and choose the dark spirit eggs they liked. Yun Chujio did not notice that she was pushed aside by the crowd. Chu Fong advised, "Junior sister Yun, there are too many people here. Let's go to the inn first. We can come back when we have time." Yun Chujio thought to herself. She also wanted to leave. However, her stomach was so hungry that it was about to cramp. Damn De Hua. This fellow gritted his teeth, stretched his neck and shouted, "Shopkeeper, I want 1,000 dark spirit eggs." As soon as Yun Chujio's words left his mouth, everyone stopped moving. 1,000 eggs? Was this little girl crazy? Shopkeeper Liu of the egg gambling house was also stunned. However, since a fool had taken the initiative to send money, he naturally would not push it out. Thus, Shopkeeper Liu motioned for everyone to make a path for Yun Chujio to enter the shop. Chu Fong was about to cry. 1,000 eggs? One had to know that the fatty had spent 1,000 spirit stones to buy the lowest-priced dark spirit eggs. Most of the dark spirit eggs in this egg gambling den were not so cheap. 1,000 eggs? How much money would that cost? Yun Chujio swaggered in front of Shopkeeper Liu and said, "I want 1,000 dark spirit eggs. How much do you want to calculate? We have money and goods in one hand." Shopkeeper Liu saw that Yun Chujio did not seem to be joking, and he was immediately overjoyed. He was so happy that he could not close his mouth. "Fairy, may I know what grade of dark spirit eggs you want? The cheapest dark spirit eggs in our egg shop are 1,000 high-grade spirit stones each. There are also 2,000, 3,000, or even tens of thousands. Which one do you want to buy?" Yun Chujio's eyes flashed, and the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. What grade is not important and how much money is not important. The important thing is that it looks pleasing to the eye. You make more, and I'll pick it out myself. When Manager Liu heard Yun Chujio's words, he laughed so hard that his body shook. He felt that Yun Chujio knew nothing about dark spirit eggs. She was like a fat lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Please visit Pand 1. Co. And therefore, he readily agreed and immediately took out a bunch of dark spirit eggs from his storage ring for Yun Chujio to choose from. Yun Chujio squatted down and began to pick the eggs. When the onlookers saw that Yun Chujio picked a bunch of dark spirit eggs in a short while, they all winked. Where did this little girl come from? Although they couldn't see the situation inside the dark spirit eggs, but based on their experience, the ones she picked weren't that good. Her money would probably go down the drain. Chu Fong looked at Yun Chujio with a bitter face. He thought to himself, I heard that junior sister Yun had won a lot of spirit stones in the bet. Let's waste it. She was so rich and willful. Yun Chujio quickly picked 1,000 dark spirit eggs. Shopkeeper Lu had already gotten someone to calculate the price and said flatteringly, "This little fairy, a total of 8 million upper-grade spirit stones. After you pay, these dark spirit eggs will be yours." What everyone didn't expect was that Yun Chujo happily paid the money and put the selected dark spirit eggs into her storage ring. Shopkeeper Lu heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. He was also afraid that Yun Chujo was causing trouble. Now that he had obtained the spirit stones, his attitude was getting better and better. Chu Fang's face was stiff. "Junior sister Yun, since you've finished buying, let's go." Yun Chujo blinked her eyes. "Wait. I think these dark spirit eggs are quite cheap, so I've decided to buy another 2,000. Chu Fang, crazy. Completely crazy. Shopkeeper Lu, how is this a big fat sheep? This is clearly a fat cow. No, a fat elephant." Shopkeeper Lu immediately took out a lot of dark spirit eggs, and Yun Chujo picked out another 2,000 dark spirit eggs. However, in the end, this guy chose even more carelessly. He directly drew a circle with his hand. "I want all the eggs in this circle. Count the money." Shopkeeper Lu felt that he was going to float as he walked, so he immediately asked someone to calculate the price. "Little fairy, a total of 15 million upper-grade spirit stones." Yun Chujo didn't even blink as she immediately completed the transaction with money and goods in one hand. Chu Fang was afraid that Yun Chujo would go crazy again, so he hurriedly said, "Junior sister Yun, let's hurry up and leave. Otherwise, Master and the others will be anxious." Yun Chujo nodded. This time, she didn't say anything and followed Chu Fang out. However, just after taking a few steps, she heard someone say with a sharp tone, "TSK, who did I think was so stupid? So it's you, a trash. Spending 20 million to buy a pile of broken stones. You're really stupid." Yun Chujo looked over when she heard the voice. It was really a narrow road for enemies. The one who spoke was Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu was accompanied by a few Flying Flower Island disciples. They were probably here to participate in the ghost city of Tao Tai. Only after entering the ghost city of Tao Tai would one obtain the mask and black robe to hide their identity. In the ghost city, everyone's appearance was no different from usual except for their spirit energy being suppressed. That was why Xiaoyu and the others noticed Yun Chujo. Shopkeeper Lu was naturally very unhappy when he heard Xiaoyu's words. What was a broken stone? Wasn't this destroying their territory? However, since he was in the business, he naturally had some understanding of the various large factions. He had seen Xiaoyu's portrait and knew that she was the beloved disciple of Island Master Qi of the Flying Flower Island. Hence, even though he was very displeased, he did not dare to say anything. Yun Chuju smiled as she glanced at Xiaoyu. "I'm happy to be rich. What can you do about it? Idiot." Xiaoyu was lashed out. Although she wished that she could kill Yun Chujo on the spot, the spirit energy in the ghost city would be suppressed. Moreover, the auction house had people in charge of maintaining order patrolling. Once they were found to be fighting, they would be expelled from the ghost city, so she really did not dare to make a move. However, was she going to let this wretched girl off just like that? Please visit Pand 1. Ma disciple beside Xiaoyu said, "Junior sister Xiaoyu, you know that senior brother has done some research on dark spirit eggs. I have a way for you to choose a good dark spirit egg. Why don't you bet with her?" When Xiaoyu heard this, her eyes immediately lit up. This senior brother Zhao usually liked to buy some dark spirit eggs to show off, and he would often buy good quality dark spirit eggs. Thus, she said to Yun Chujo, "Yun Chujo, do you dare to bet with me?" "I don't dare," Yun Chujo said slowly. Xiaoyu, Pialfa Dialfa Nu Iota, Hei Xinjiu didn't want this sinking pulp sword herself. She wanted to give this sword to Master Ouyang. As the saying went, if one was short-handed, that old man might take her as a disciple. Xiaoyu was so angry that her face turned red when she heard that Yun Chujo wanted her to use the sinking pulp sword as a bet. Although she was domineering, she was not a fool. There was no need for her to risk the sinking pulp sword for a bet. "Don't even think about it. Let's bet 1 million upper grade spirit stones. If you don't bet with me, it means that your nameless sword sect is full of cowards who are afraid of death. All of you are useless. Yun Chujio secretly lamented in her heart. This little bitch was not stupid. It seemed that she would not be able to get her hands on the sinking pulp sword. 1 million high-grade spirit stones is too little. How about this? If you raise the bet to 20 million high-grade spirit stones, I'll bet with you. Otherwise, there's no need to talk about it. Xiao Yu gritted her teeth. She really did have 20 million high-grade spirit stones on her, but it was not her money. Instead, it was the money that some disciples of the Flying Flower Island who could not come over asked her to buy herbs for them. The Flying Flower Island was located on an island, so there was a shortage of herbs. There were several large pharmacies in the Ghost City, and their prices were much cheaper than the market. That was why they asked Xiao Yu to help them buy herbs. When Yun Chujio saw that Xiao Yu did not reply, she immediately wanted to leave. Although she liked to torture dregs, De Hua was a glutton who only wanted to eat dark spirit stones. He was simply starving her to death. When Xiao Yu saw that Yun Chujio was about to leave, she clenched her teeth. All right, I promise you. 20 million then. We will decide the winner in one round. Everyone will choose a dark spirit egg and dissect it on the spot. Those with higher star ratings will win. Yun Chujio used her divine sense to comfort De Hua before saying, all right, did everyone hear that? If this Xiao Yu doesn't keep her word later, you all have to help me stand up for justice. The surrounding people were eager to see what was going on, so they naturally agreed. Xiao Yu was somewhat apprehensive. She glanced at the disciple who had instigated her to make a bet. Senior brother Zhao Yuan, how confident are you? Zhao Yuan smiled smugly. Junior sister Xiao Yu, don't worry. You will definitely win this bet. After he finished speaking, he said to Shopkeeper Liu, Shopkeeper Liu, take out the store-guarding treasure of your egg gambling den. Well, buy it. Store-guarding treasure? Everyone's attention was attracted by these 4 words. This egg gambling den still had store-guarding treasure? Shopkeeper Liu hesitated for a moment, but he still carefully took out a dark spirit egg. The shape of this dark spirit egg was obviously much more regular than the other dark spirit eggs, and its outer shell was faintly cyan. Someone in the crowd immediately said, translucent cyan. This is the legendary translucent cyan. It's said that the probability of this kind of dark spirit egg producing high-star dark spirit stones is very high. Yes, I've heard of it as well, but this is the first time I've seen it. This translucid blue is very rare. No wonder this egg casino treats it as a treasure. I think that Xiao Yu from the Flying Flower Island will definitely win this bet. Even if that Yun Chujio is lucky enough to pick a better dark spirit egg, it can't be compared to translucid blue. Zhao Yuan pointed at the translucid blue and said to Xiao Yu, Junior sister Xiao Yu, are you relieved this time? Even if Yun Chujio is lucky, she won't be able to find a better dark spirit egg than this translucid blue. Please visit Pand 1. Co. Xiao Yu was originally a little worried, but now it turned into complacency. It couldn't be better to make Yun Chujio lose money and make her lose face. Chu Fong was about to cry. The knew one, just as Chu Fong was in the midst of his thoughts. Shopkeeper Liu said to Xiao Yu, Fairy Xiao Yu, this translucent cyan is my store's most prized treasure, so the price is correspondingly not cheap. Are you sure you want this one? Xiao Yu snorted coldly. You mean you're afraid that I'll go back on my word? How much is it? 5 million upper-grade spirit stones. Xiao Yu's expression stiffened. 5 million? No wonder they hadn't sold it. This was too expensive. Zhao Yuan saw the situation and said, Junior sister Xiao Yu, although this 5 million is a little expensive, if we can extract a 5-star dark spirit stone, it'll be worth at least 20 million high-grade spirit stones. Even if it's a 4-star, it'll still be worth 5 to 6 million. Moreover, if we win against Yun Chujio for 20 million, spending 5 million is worth it. Xiao Yu thought about it, and it made sense. Even if it was a 3-star spirit stone, it was enough to win against Yun Chujio. After all, the final money was from Yun Chujio. Buy it thus. Xiao Yu spent 5 million high-grade spirit stones to buy that translucent green. Yun Chujiu, I've already chosen. You choose. Xiao Yu said proudly. Yun Chujiu's gaze swept over the green shell and said to shopkeeper Liu, "Get me some dark spirit eggs. I'll pick one from them." Shopkeeper Liu was cunning and planned to earn more money. Therefore, most of the eggs he took out were high-grade dark spirit eggs. Only a few cheap dark spirit eggs were mixed in. However, he never expected that Yun Chujiu would randomly choose the cheapest dark spirit egg. "Fairy, are you sure you want to buy this dark spirit egg? This dark spirit egg is the cheapest one, and it only costs 1,000 spirit stones." Shopkeeper Liu asked in disbelief. Yun Chujiu nodded with certainty. "I'll take it. It's the most pleasing to the eye." Chu Fong looked at Yun Chujiu speechlessly. "It's over. Junior sister Yun, are you throwing away your last hope?" But that was also right. This could also be considered to reduce the loss. The onlookers also felt that Yun Chujiu had given up. But it was also true. Even if she bought an expensive one, it was impossible for it to be of a higher grade than the dark spirit stone that was dissected from the eggshell green. The smile on Xiao Yu's face could not be suppressed any longer. She said proudly, "Since you've already chosen, then let's dissect it and see. I'll go first." The person in charge of the egg gambling den was carefully removing the outer layer of the shell green. Just as a small piece of the shell was removed, a lustrous light was emitted. Everyone cried out in surprise. "Pialfa new one. Is there even a need to say that? Yun Chujiu's piece is the lowest grade. Perhaps there's a stone inside, not even a 1-star dark spirit stone. TSK, this Yun Chujiu has been schemed against by someone. That Zhao Yuan must have known that the egg casino had an eggshell green before. That's why he set up the bet." Chu Fong was already numb after listening to the words of these people. He was already completely prepared for Yun Chujiu to squander again. She was rich and willful. Please visit Pand 1. Co. Moss. The stone shell was removed. The eggshell green emitted an even more intense light. Everyone was certain that this eggshell green would eventually yield a 5-star dark spirit stone. However, no one expected that when the stone shell was halfway removed, the stone cutter exclaimed, "It's actually an egg inside an egg." Everyone was stunned. The so-called egg inside an egg meant that there was a dark spirit egg wrapped inside the dark spirit egg. This kind of situation could be a good thing or a bad thing. However, for this green shell, it was most likely a bad thing, because the probability of the quality of the egg still being a 5-star grade was too small. Xiao Yu's expression suddenly changed, and she nervously stared at the worker who was dissecting the stone. The worker carefully peeled off the dark spirit stone wrapped around the outer layer, and then untied the dark spirit egg on the inner layer. Everyone cried out in surprise again, because the dark spirit eggs inside were actually all stones, and not a single dark spirit stone. TSK, this green shell only has a thin layer of 5-star dark spirit stones while the rest are useless stones. The value is greatly discounted, and at most, it's only worth a 3-star dark spirit stone. This is a huge loss. It's not even worth 1 million. But it doesn't matter. That Yun Chujiu might not even be a 1-star, so Xiao Yu is still sure to make a profit. That Yun Chujiu probably regrets it to death. If she had bought a more expensive dark spirit egg just now, she might have won against Xiao Yu. It's useless even if she regrets it now. Xiao Yu's expression was somewhat unsightly, but when her gaze landed on the low-grade dark spirit egg that Yun Chujiu had chosen, she gained some confidence. She did not believe that such a cheap dark spirit egg could yield a 3-star or above dark spirit stone. Chu Fong secretly sighed at the side. He thought to himself, this junior sister Yun was so generous before, yet she was so stingy just now. It would have been great if she had bought a better dark spirit egg just now. What a pity! Yun Chujiu's expression remained the same. She placed the dark spirit egg in her hand on the stone table and said indifferently, "Be careful. This is my treasure. Don't spoil it for me." The worker in charge of dissecting the stones secretly curled his lips. Such a low-grade dark spirit egg was still a treasure. Did they really think that they didn't know what was good for them? However, with Yun Chujia's instructions, his actions were a little more careful. However, after peeling off the 3-inch thick stone shell, there was still a stone inside. The worker, who was dissecting the stone, glanced at Yun Chujio. That meant, since it was already like this, should they continue to dissect it? The onlookers also shook their heads. This Yun Chujio was definitely going to lose. This dark spirit egg seemed to be a dead egg. It was filled with stones, and there were no dark spirit stones at all. Xiao Yu and Zhao Yuan's faces were filled with pride. Although there was a slight slip-up, the final result was good enough. At this moment, the staff member who was dissecting the stone cried out in surprise. Everyone looked towards the source of the voice and saw that the dark spirit egg revealed a trace of luster. There was actually a dark spirit stone in it. Pialfa Nu Iota, almost in an instant, the test pillar beside the stone dissecting table emitted a buzzing sound. Shopkeeper Lu staggered and directly collapsed on the ground. He said in disbelief, 6-star. This is a 6-star dark spirit stone. Everyone was astonished. 6-star? Didn't they say that the highest dark spirit stone was 5-star? Someone in the crowd said, I thought that 6-star dark spirit stones were just a legend. I didn't expect that there really was a 6-star dark spirit stone. This is a priceless treasure. Please visit Pand 1. Really? There really is a 6-star dark spirit stone? Oh my god, this Yun Chujio spent 1,000 upper-grade spirit stones to buy a 6-star dark spirit stone? This is a huge profit. There's no need to mention the result of this competition. It's naturally Yun Chujio who won. She's really lucky, casually picking up a rare 6-star dark spirit stone. Xiao Yu's face was deathly pale. She shook her head repeatedly. Impossible. How could Yun Chujio have such good luck? It must be an illusion. Beside her, Zhao Yuan's face was even more ashen. He was the one who instigated Xiao Yu to bet on the egg. Now, not only did he lose to Yun Chujio for 20 million, he even spent 5 million to buy the green shell. Xiao Yu would not forgive him. As for Chu Feng, he was already so shocked that he did not know where he was. For some reason, when he looked at the calm and composed Yun Chujio, he had a feeling in his heart. Could it be that junior sister Yun already knew that there was a 6-star dark spirit stone in this dark spirit egg? He immediately shook his head. How was this possible? No one could peek into the situation inside the dark spirit egg. This must be a coincidence. It must be junior sister Yun's good luck. At this moment, the 6-star dark spirit stone had been completely dissected. The dazzling light enveloped the entire stone dissecting platform in a halo. Yun Chujio walked forward and held the dark spirit stone in her hand to take a look. Then, she looked at the pale-faced Xiao Yu. The outcome has been decided. Pass the spirit stone to me. You are the personal disciple of the Lord of the Flying Flower Island. You won't go back on your word, right? Xiao Yu's body was slightly trembling. She had already spent 5 million to buy the green shell just now. Now, if she were to give Yun Chujio another 20 million, that would be 25 million. Moreover, this money was not all hers. How was she going to explain to those disciples when she went back? Xiao Yu, just give me the money. I'm still waiting to go back and eat. I don't have time to waste here with you. If you don't have the money, you can use your sinking pulp sword to pay off the debt.
I don't mind.
Yun Chujio said impatiently. Xiao Yu was so angry that her eyes were red. The sinking pulp sword to pay off the debt? Not to mention 20 million. Even if it was 200 million, she would not lose the sinking pulp sword to her. Everyone's gazes and discussions made her wish she could find a hole to hide in. She gritted her teeth and still transferred the 20 million spirit stones to Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio kept the spirit stone and held the 6-star dark spirit stone in her hand. When she passed by Xiaoyu, Xiaoyu stretched out her left foot.
Bang!
Walla! Walla! Yun Chujiu tripped over Xiaoyu. Although she did not fall, the 6-star dark spirit stone in her hand fell to the ground and instantly shattered into pieces. Everyone was stunned. Even Xiaoyu was stunned. She did not expect Yun Chujiu to really fall for it and even shattered the 6-star dark spirit stone in her hand. It was truly retribution. Xiaoyu felt that the pent-up anger in her heart had finally dissipated a little as she sneered. TSK, Yun Chujiu, don't be too conceited. Isn't it tragic now? Let's go. Xiaoyu was afraid that Yun Chujiu would seek revenge on her, so after saying a sarcastic sentence, she hurriedly brought Zhao Yuan and the others away. Yun Chujiu, on the other hand, seemed to have suffered a heavy blow. She first stared blankly at the broken pieces on the ground, then picked them up while shedding tears. Chu Fong hurriedly helped pick them up. Seeing Yun Chujiu crying miserably, he consoled her dryly. Junior sister Yun, don't be too sad. This broken piece is quite beautiful. Please visit Pand 1. Shopkeeper Liu and the surrounding crowd shook their heads. Firstly, they despised Xiaoyu's behavior. They all saw that she tripped Yun Chujiu and admitted defeat. She was completely flustered and exasperated. Her character was too bad. Secondly, they felt that it was a pity that the broken 6-star dark spirit stone was worthless if it was broken. Because once it was broken, there was no way to absorb the spirit energy contained within it. The only use it had was to make beautiful decorations. What a waste of a god's gift. Yun Chujiu put all the broken pieces into her storage ring, then wiped her tears and left the egg gambling den. Chu Fong followed behind awkwardly. He wanted to comfort her, but he didn't know where to start. Just as he was racking his brain to make Yun Chujiu happy, he heard Yun Chujiu humming a happy tune. He listened carefully. What did she mean by, today is a good day? She could do whatever she wanted? Oh no! Junior sister Yun had gone mad from the shock. This time, she had really gone mad. Yun Chujiu ignored the dumbfounded Chu Fong and felt extremely happy in her heart. She could have avoided Xiaoyu's scheme, but she had deliberately played along. This 6-star dark spirit stone was too eye-catching. It would be a disaster if it was left in her hands, but now that it was broken, no one would have any designs on it. Also, of the 3,000 dark spirit eggs that she picked, 99% of them had dark spirit stones. As for why this fellow was so sure, the reason was very simple. She had Xiaohei. Although Xiaohei's other abilities were not that great, the small matter of identifying dark spirit stones was simply too simple, wasn't it? If it were not for the fact that he was afraid of arousing suspicion, he would have searched through all the spirit stones in the egg gambling den and pulled all the good things out. Even so, there were very few good things left in the egg gambling den. TSK, did he think that she was a fat sheep? She was a wolf in sheep's clothing, a hungry wolf. Chu Fong followed behind Yun Chujiu in a daze. He wanted to ask something but didn't know where to start. At this moment, Yun Chujiu handed him a dark spirit egg. Senior brother Chu, take it and play with it. I've bought so many anyway. I don't need this one. Chu Fong was stunned for a moment and thanked her dryly. Then, he put the dark spirit egg into his storage ring. The two of them soon arrived at the King of Hell's residence. Chu Fong watched helplessly as He Xinjiu, who was still humming a little tune, instantly turned into a pitiful appearance. Elders, sob sob sob, you have to stand up for me. Xiaoyu, that little bitch, has tricked me so badly. Elder Gu and the other two hurriedly asked upon seeing this. After learning of what had happened, Elder Duanmu slapped the table. How outrageous! The people of the Flying Flower Island are really unscrupulous in doing things. It's despicable. Elder Dongfang and Elder Chu also cursed, but considering that they were here to participate in the ghost city of Taotai, it was better to avoid unnecessary trouble, so they comforted Yun Chujiu and did not go to the Flying Flower Island to settle the score. The main reason was that even if they went to look for Yun Chujio, Xiao Yu insisted that it was not intentional, so they could not do anything to her. Besides, Yun Chujio was not at a disadvantage. She had won at least 20 million, right? Chu Feng, who was watching Yun Chujio's performance, could not help but shiver. Junior sister Yun's cultivation was too deep. He must not offend her in the future. The crowd chatted for a while more before Yun Chujio found an excuse to return to her room. There was no other reason but that Fudi's flower was about to turn the sky upside down. Yun Chujio released the mini flower. This fellow first swallowed the fragments of the 6-star dark spirit stone, then he hugged a dark spirit egg and began to chew on it. In a short while, he ate 10 dark spirit eggs. Yun Chujio's heart was bleeding. It was too expensive to raise such a thing. She had worked hard to get it. No, the money she earned was not even enough to fill the gaps between her teeth. When she had the chance, she had to think of ways to get rich. Please visit Pand 1. Ko. M. Buttface, who was in the spirit beast bag, comforted her. Little fairy, although this Tao Tai can eat some, these dark spirit stones are very effective in raising its level. It's not a waste. Hearing this, Yun Chujio felt a little better. At this moment, Chu Feng, who was in the room next to Yun Chujio's, was dissecting the stone with sweat all over his head. After Chu Feng returned to the room, he thought of the incident where Yun Chujio tricked Zhuang Hong. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that today's matter was not that simple. Therefore, he took out the dark spirit egg that Yun Chujio gave him and prepared to open it to take a look. He had a feeling that Yun Chujio would not throw him a dark spirit egg for no reason. There must be a dark spirit stone in this dark spirit egg. Therefore, he took out a dagger and started peeling off the stone shell bit by bit. Although the speed was very slow, under his persistent efforts, he finally managed to get rid of a stone shell, revealing a lustrous glow. The dark spirit egg that junior sister Yun casually threw at him was a 4 stars. Oh God, could she really know if there were dark spirit stones inside the dark spirit egg? Chu Feng thought of the 3,000 dark spirit eggs that Yun Chujio had bought, and the song that she was humming today was a good day. He felt that his brain was not enough. He was stunned for a long time before he put the dark spirit egg into his storage ring. He felt that the mysteries surrounding Yun Chujio were getting more and more. He had a premonition that because of the participation of this pervert junior sister Yun, the soon-to-open ghost city of Tao Tai would cause a stir. However, he did not know why, but he was a little excited. He was most likely crazy. Two days later, the ghost city of Tao Tai finally opened. Yun Chujio eagerly followed Elder Gu and the others to the entrance of the ghost city. Although they did not arrive late, there was still a long line at the entrance. Fortunately, there were a total of 10 entrances. Although they had to wait for a while, they did not have to wait for too long. Yun Chujio curiously looked around and suddenly felt a few malicious gazes. She turned her head and saw Xiao Yu and the others glaring at her from the team beside her. Yun Chujio originally planned to bawl pitifully and also tarnish Xiao Yu's image, but this fellow thought that this was the entrance to the ghost city of Tao Tai. If she caused trouble, it would not be good, so this fellow decided to endure for a while. After a while, the line finally reached them. After paying the entrance fee, Yun Chujio received a mask, a black robe, and a voice-changing pill. She put them on according to the requirements and looked around. They were all people wearing black robes and masks. Yun Chujio was afraid that she would get separated from Elder Duanmu and the others, so she followed behind them. The 5 of them took a few more turns and mingled with the people who came in from the other entrances. Then, someone began to distribute number plates to them and repeatedly emphasized that only number plates were recognized in the ghost city of Tao Tai, not people. All matters had to be handled by number plates. Yun Chujio felt that the people from the Tao Tai ghost city were really thoughtful. If they were to hand out number plates at the entrance, it was inevitable that some people would know the identities of some people. Now that everyone was mingling together, it was really difficult to identify their identities. After receiving the number plates, They took a few more turns and arrived at a fork in the road. One led to the scattered seating area, and the other led to the private rooms. Elder Duanmu and the others were naturally unwilling to go to the scattered seating area. They originally wanted to buy a private room, but Yun Chujio directly paid for 2 private rooms. Elder Duanmu and the others frowned. A private room could seat 6 people. Why would they buy another private room? Wasn't it a waste? Please visit Pand 1. Ko. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and gestured with her hand a few times. Only then did Elder Duanmu and the others realize that this little girl was full of tricks. The reason why she wanted to split up was that she was afraid that someone would remember that they came together as 5 people. It would be easy to be exposed by then. Although Elder Duanmu and the others felt that it was unnecessary, after all, with the reputation of the nameless sword sect, no one dared to rob them. Moreover, they only bought the materials for refining weapons, so no one would be too greedy. However, since they had already paid the money, they couldn't say anything. In the end, Chu Fong and Yun Chujio entered private room number 9, while Elder Duanmu and the other 2 entered private room number 10 next door. After Yun Chujio and Chu Fong entered private room number 9, they found that there were not only pastries and tea, but also a maid waiting for their orders. Chu Fong explained from the side, "Junior sister, when we quote the price later, we only need to tell the maid the price. She will quote the price for us." Pialfa knew one, Yun Chujio nodded. "Senior brother, I got it." The guy then looked at the maid. "Beautiful sister, how should I address you?" The maid could not help but shiver. There was no other reason. After Hei Shinjio took the transformation pills, her voice turned into the voice of an old woman. Anyone who is addressed as a beautiful sister by an old woman would be horrified, okay? The maid was well trained. Even though she was not used to it, she still said respectfully, "I'm number 9. You can just call me Little Gio." Yun Chujio. Chapter 41-46. Foam Pia Piao. Yun Chujio cursed in her heart. Fuck, is Little Gio such a common name? So it's Sister Little Gio Gio. Are these spirit fruits and pastries available in unlimited supply? Can you send us some more? I came to line up early in the morning. I'm so hungry. Hei Shinjio said shamelessly. The freshly baked maid, Little Gio, was dumbfounded. Both number 9 and Little Gio could accept it. What the hell was this Little Gio? Also, she had never heard of anyone coming to the ghost market of Tao Tai specifically to eat. Since this person had the money to buy a private room, could it be that he didn't have the money to buy food? He actually took such a small advantage? However, on second thought, the 2 of them addressed each other as senior brother and junior sister. Perhaps they followed the elders of the sect to watch the show, so they probably didn't have much money on them. Thinking of this, the maid felt that her task this time was very easy to complete. In any case, they were just watching the show and wouldn't bid at all. She was happy to be idle. Although the maid had a few thoughts in her mind, she still said respectfully, "Please wait for a moment. I will get someone to send more over." The maid took out a jade token to send a message. Soon, a servant brought spirit fruits, pastries, and other things. Yun Chujio crossed her legs and looked outside, through the special screen while eating. The screen in the private room was made of a special material. The people in the private room could see everything outside, but the people outside could not see what was going on inside. The scattered seats outside were not as noisy as they had imagined. Firstly, in order to not expose their identities, they tried their best to keep quiet. Another reason was that the official auction had not started yet, so there was nothing to discuss. Everyone's eyes were burning as they looked at the auction stage. Seeing that there were no guards around the auction stage, Yun Chujio asked curiously, "Little 99, no one is watching the auction stage. Aren't you afraid that someone will snatch it from you?" The servant girl's mouth twitched. All right, now even her sister was gone, and it had become Little 99. Although there is no one around the auction stage has an array formation. Ordinary people won't be able to enter the auction stage in a short period of time. Moreover, the auction stage has a teleportation array, so the people on it can leave at any time. Yun Chujio nodded. No wonder the ghost city of Tao Tai was collecting money everywhere. There were indeed many places that required money to host such an auction. Not to mention other things, it would cost a lot of spirit stones to build this auction stage. She looked around again and saw many guards of the ghost city standing at the edge of the hall below. They were commonly known as ghost guards and were probably used to maintain order. When this fellow was looking around, the people below let out a series of exclamations. Yun Chujia's gaze also landed on the auction stage. On the auction stage, a few women in gorgeous clothes appeared. They twisted their waists and began to dance along with the music. The customers who had dispersed their seats all widened their eyes. Some even whistled. For a moment, it was extremely lively. Yun Chujio thought to herself, this is interesting. Is this a warm-up? That's right. It was inevitable that they would not be able to arouse the enthusiasm of the customers since they were auctioning their items right from the start. With such a scene, the atmosphere became very lively. As the music stopped, the dancers left the stage. A woman with an enchanting figure appeared on the auction stage. The woman bowed to the crowd. Dear customers, Feng Pia Piao is right. The whistling sound came from below, mixed with some shouts. Something about Miss Pia Piao being more beautiful than before, something about Miss Pia Piao missing you to death, blah 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 blah. Feng Pia Piao smiled at the crowd, picked up the small hammer in her hand, and knocked it. Then she said, thanks to your great love, our once in 5 years Taotai Ghost Market has officially opened. Chapter 4147 Mysterious Heaven Pill. At this moment, everyone's enthusiasm had been fully mobilized. They were all eagerly waiting for the first item to be auctioned. As the first item to be auctioned, it naturally had to be well known. Otherwise, it would be very easy to lower everyone's expectations. In the midst of everyone's anticipation, Feng Pia Piao took out a small porcelain bottle. The first item to be auctioned is a level 33 Mysterious Heaven Pill. This Mysterious Heaven Pill is a high-grade medicinal pill that Senior Xian Xiao refined. I believe I don't need to say much about the Mysterious Heaven Pill's effects. Everyone knows that it has a very good healing effect on the damaged soul. The soul can be said to be the hardest to repair. Once the soul is damaged, the consequences will be unimaginable. However, if one can consume the Mysterious Heaven Pill at the first opportunity, although it will not allow the soul to completely recover, its effects will be several times better than other pills. Alright, after saying so much, let's get down to business. The first item is a high-grade Mysterious Heaven Pill. The starting price is 10 million high-grade spirit stones. Everyone can bid now. Each increment must not be lower than 100,000 high-grade spirit stones. The moment Feng Pia Piao's bid came out, everyone was in an uproar. The reputation of the ghost market of Tao Tai was indeed well-deserved. The price was simply frighteningly high. Although this Mysterious Heaven Pill was indeed worth this price, it was too expensive. They couldn't afford it. They couldn't afford it. However, there were many people with money. Although they might not be able to use it, it was better to be prepared. Having such a pill was always good. Hence, people began to bid. 10,100,000, 10,200,000, 10,300,000. Chu Fong looked at it with slight excitement. Although he couldn't afford it, it was still good to watch the show. Seeing that the price had been raised to 15 million, Feng Pia Piao saw that no one was going to raise the price. Just as she was about to strike the hammer, a slightly trembling voice said, 20 million. Number 19 in private room number 9 is asking for 20 million. The scene was dead silent. Did they hear wrong? 20 million? He directly increased the price by 5 million? Did he have money and nowhere to spend it? In private room number 9, the maid glanced at Yun Chujio nervously. Although she had stated the price according to Yun Chujio's instructions, she did not think that customer number 19 was fooling around, right? However, as a maid, she naturally did not dare to say anything and could only follow her instructions. Chu Fong was already dumbfounded. Although he had guessed that Yun Chujio was quite rich, she had increased the price by 20 million. This was too wasteful. Elder Duanmu and the others in the neighboring private room know. 10 were also shocked. This little girl was too generous. Even if she wanted the pill, she shouldn't have increased it by 5 million. Foam Pia Piao was stunned for a moment. She had never met such a forthright customer. Afraid that things would change, she immediately said, 20 million going once, 20 million going twice, 20 million deal. Soon, someone knocked on the door of private room number 9. The maid opened the door, and a person who looked like a steward respectfully walked in with a tray. Guest, this is the mysterious heaven pill that you bought. Please fulfill the contract, the steward said respectfully. Yun Chujio generously handed the steward 20 million spiritual stones. Then, she took the porcelain bottle in the tray, uncorked the bottle, and poured out a round pill. The steward took a sniff, swallowed his saliva, and was stunned for a moment. Then he put the pill into the porcelain bottle and put it into a storage ring. The steward and servant girls' faces were stiff. Although they couldn't see Yun Chujio's face clearly, they could hear the sound of her swallowing her saliva clearly. Was there a mistake? This was a pill, a pill. She wasn't eating it, was she sick? Chapter 41-48. Thousand-year black iron. They did not know that Go Weiba was cursing Go Weiba in his heart. The 20 million bid was not from Yun Chujio at all. Instead, Go Weiba had seized control of Yun Chujio's body while she was distracted. If Yun Chujio had not forcefully seized control of her body, Guai Chao would have swallowed the mysterious heavenly pill. Go Weiba, are you courting death? Although I can't do anything to you now, there is still time. One day, I will make you regret living in this world. Guai Chao saw that Yun Chujio's tone was colder than ever and immediately became a little timid. Ever since this little girl had those drifters, she had become more and more frightening. It had better stop. However, it was so gluttonous. Yun Chujio took a deep breath. She advised herself that it was a blessing to be at a disadvantage and not to be on the same level as a stalk of grass. However, when she thought about the 20 million that she had spent, her heart ached terribly. This fellow thought that the wool came from a sheep, so he said to the Guai Xiao, "Tell me the ingredients of the mysterious heaven pill. I'll refine a few more bottles for you some other day, and let you eat them like candy." Guai Chao immediately put his previous nervousness to the back of his mind and recalled the fragrance he smelled. After Yun Chujio tidied up the Guai Chao, she realized that the steward had left a long time ago. Chu Fong and the maid looked at her as if they were looking at a fool. Guai Chao was so angry that he was twitching, but he couldn't say anything. At this moment, the second item on the auction stage was a colorful phoenix hairpin. Everyone, this rainbow-colored phoenix hairpin is the last work of artifact master Zhumu when he was alive. It was made for his wife. After a few rounds, it appeared on our auction stage. Everyone please take a look. Not only is this rainbow-colored phoenix hairpin beautiful, but its defense attribute is comparable to the mid-grade immortal grade. It is truly the best choice to give to a beauty. The starting price of this rainbow-colored phoenix hairpin is 6 million upper-grade spirit stones. The bidding begins now. Yun Chujio looked at the phoenix hairpin on the auction stage and was slightly moved. She didn't take a fancy to the hairpin's appearance, but rather its defense attribute. However, after thinking about it, this thing would attract too much attention if it was brought out. Moreover, it would expose its identity, so she decided to forget about it. The bidding for this rainbow-colored phoenix hairpin was even more intense than the Xian Heaven pill from before. Presumably, many people wanted to buy it to please the beauty. Of course, they couldn't rule out the possibility that there were women bidding for it. In the end, the rainbow-colored phoenix hairpin was sold for 8 million yuan. A few more items appeared, but the final price did not exceed the Xian Heaven pill's price. On one hand, the value of those items was indeed not as good as the Xian Heaven pill. On the other hand, there was no fool who suddenly increased the price by 5 million yuan. The more Yun Chujio thought about it, the angrier she became. She scolded Guai Chao, who was desperately trying to find a prescription. At this time, Feng Piapiao said, "The sixth item is 3 pieces of 1,000-year-old black iron, each weighing about 10,000 kilograms. As everyone knows, the 1,000-year-old black iron is the hardest material to refine weapons other than the 10,000-year-old black iron. We also spent a lot of effort to find these 3 pieces of 1,000-year-old black iron. The 3 pieces of 1,000-year-old black iron will be auctioned together. The starting price will be 20 million high-grade spirit stones." Yun Chujia's eyes suddenly lit up. It was truly a waste of time and effort to find the 3 pieces of 1,000-year-old dark steel. Puppet number 6, number 7, and number 8 were currently using shells made of refined iron. They were truly fragile. If she had these 3 pieces of 1,000-year-old dark steel, things would be much easier. Unfortunately, before she could make a sound, someone said, "In private room number 10, guest number 16 bids 20,100,000. Room 16? Wasn't that old man Duanmu?" Yun Chujio held her breath, but she couldn't compete with elder Duanmu. She could only watch with her cheeks puffed up. Chapter 41-49. In private room 10, Elder Duanmu and Elder Dongfang were both very excited. Although the 1,000-year black iron was not a top-grade material, it was the most suitable supplementary material. If they could buy these 3 pieces of 1,000-year black iron, they would no longer have to worry about the supplementary material. Therefore, the two of them decided to work together to buy these 3 pieces of 1,000-year black iron. They were relatively confident. Although the 1,000-year black iron was not bad, the price was so high that not many people would compete with them. As expected, very few people bid. When Elder Duanmu bid 22 million, no one raised the price anymore. Feng Piapiao raised the small hammer. 22 million going once, 22 million going twice. She was about to drop the hammer when a maid said, "Room 74, guest 83 bid 25 million. Everyone cried out in surprise. Suddenly, there was an additional 3 million. This person could be compared to the guest in room 9. He was really generous. Elder Duanmu and Elder Dongfang looked at each other. Did they meet an opponent? Elder Duanmu said to the maid, 26 million. The maid in private room number 10 had just made a bid when private room number 74 on the other side had bid 30 million. Everyone's eyes immediately burned with the flames of gossip. This was a close call. It seemed that room number 74 was determined to get those 3 pieces of 1,000-year-old black iron. The people in room number 74 were Island Master Qi and the others from the Flying Flower Island. After Xiao Yu was tricked by Yun Chujio, she would naturally be reprimanded by Island Master Qi when she returned. However, Island Master Qi usually doted on her, but in the end, he still paid out of his own pocket to fill her hole. Xiao Yu asked in puzzlement, "Master, isn't this too expensive? Are you really going to buy it? There's a high chance that the 10th private room is from the Nameless Sword sect. Even if we spend a little more money, it's still good to add to their troubles. Besides, we can also use this 1,000-year-old black iron." After Island Master Qi finished speaking, he swept a glance at the maid in the private room. The maid was very tactful. She bowed and said, "Guests, please rest assured. We will strictly keep everything of our guests a secret. We won't divulge a single word." Island Master Qi snorted coldly. Even if it were to be divulged, he was not afraid. There were nearly 20 people from their Flying Flower Island this time. Not a single faction dared to offend them. When Island Master Qi thought about how the Nameless Sword sect had snatched the first place in the whale feast, he felt as if a fishbone was stuck in his throat.
He was so angry that he was about to die.
Now, he naturally seized every opportunity to create trouble for the Nameless Sword sect. Even though the 3 pieces of 1,000-year black iron were ultimately bought by the Nameless Sword sect, they had still wasted their money. In private room number 10, Elder Duanmu and Elder Dongfang's expressions did not look too good. They could naturally tell that the people in private room number 74 were here to cause trouble. Although 1,000-year black iron was rare, 30 million was indeed a little expensive. Should they increase the price? Before the two of them could come to a conclusion, They heard the maid in the next room shout, "Private room 9, guest number 19 is asking for 40 million. This time, everyone exploded. Io, is guest number 19 rich and has nowhere to spend his money? He raised the price by 5 million previously, but this time it's even more fierce. He raised the price by 10 million. The main thing is that these 3 pieces of 1,000-year black iron are at most worth 30 million. Wouldn't he be a fool if he bought them for 40 million? I think there's an 80% chance that this 19th customer is mentally ill, and it's not light." Xiao Yu frowned. "Master, are we still going to raise the price?" Chapter 4150. Water Repellent Bead Island Master Chi's face was gloomy. He was prepared to play with Elder Duanmu and the others, but he didn't expect that there would be room number 9. 40 million was too expensive. If he increased the price and Elder Duanmu and room number 9 didn't increase the price, he would suffer a great loss. Although 1,000-year black iron was rare, there were other ways to get it. He did not suspect that the people in private room number 9 were related to Elder Duanmu and the others. After all, he knew that Elder Duanmu and the others were 5 people, so he thought that they were all in private room number 10. He did not know, but Elder Duanmu and the others knew. The 3 old men looked at each other. Was that little girl crazy? Although there was still Chu Fong in private room number 9, the 3 of them ignored him. To be able to do such a squandering thing, it was naturally that little girl Yun Chujio. Foam Pia Piao waited for a moment, and seeing that no one was going to raise the price, she immediately said excitedly, 40 million going once, 40 million going twice, 40 million sold. 3 pieces of 1,000-year black ironstones belonged to guest number 19. At the same time, the steward from before knocked on the door of private room number 9 again. Under Chu Fang's shocked gaze, Yun Chujio handed the steward 40 million spirit stones and smilingly checked the 3 pieces of 1,000-year black iron that she had just bought. These 3 pieces of 1,000-year-old black iron were quite large. They were more than enough to forge 10 puppets, not to mention 3 puppets. Of course, this fellow couldn't have it all to himself. He couldn't help but give one to Elder Duanmu and Elder Dongfang. The maid in private room number 9 was a little dumbfounded. She thought that the 2 people in front of her didn't have the money to come and watch the show, but who would have thought that they would spend 60 million in such a short time? They were too damn rich. Chu Fong finally said after a long time, "Junior sister, you should not be impulsive anymore." "Impulsive, what is it?" "Impulsive is not good." Yun Chujio glanced at him. "I am rich. Someone is competing with me. Fuck, smash him to death with spirit stones." Chu Fong was silent. "Alright, if you are rich and willful, you can do whatever you want." Yun Chujio's eyes flashed. She felt that the people in room number 74 were obviously raising the price. However, if they did not raise the price, she would not be able to snatch food from Elder Duanmu and the others. She had to thank them. However, since they were against Elder Duanmu and the others, they must not be good people. Could they be from the Flying Flower Island? Let's see how she torments them when there's something they like later. While He Xinjie was thinking, Foam Pia Piao took out a white bead and said excitedly, "Everyone, please take a look. The bead in my hand is the legendary water repellent bead, which is also the mermaid's tear." Foam Pia Piao's words immediately caused a huge uproar. Oh my god, the mermaid's tear? It was actually the legendary water repellent bead. It was more than 10,000 times stronger than the water repellent bead. Not only did the water repellent bead only last for 15 minutes, but it also had to be in the mouth. How could it be compared to this water repellent bead? Yes, this is a priceless treasure. I didn't expect that the ghost city of Tao Tai would have such a treasure. It's worth it even if I have to spend all my money to buy it. You must know that this might be the only water-repellent bead in this world. Yes, you're right. I'll buy it no matter how much it costs. In private room number 74, Island Master Chi stood up excitedly. There really was a water-repellent bead in this world? He was determined to get it. After all, they were originally island sections. If they had a water-repellent bead, Many things would be much more convenient. The more Island Master Chi thought about it, the more excited he became. His eyes were burning as he stared at the brocade box in Feng Piapiao's hand. Chapter 4151 was a good way to kill a fat sheep in private room number 9. Chu Feng also stood up excitedly. Junior sister, it's a water-repellent bead. It's actually a water-repellent bead. Oh my god, I didn't expect to see a water-repellent bead in my lifetime. It's a pity that I don't have money, or else I would definitely bid for it. Yun Chuzhou chewed on the spirit fruit and said indifferently, "What's so strange about that thing? Do you have to be so excited?" Chu Feng looked at Yun Chuzhou in shock. Junior sister, are you stupid? That's the mermaid's tears. That's a water-repellent bead. It's not the water-repellent bead you gave us. I used to think that this water-repellent bead was lost. I didn't think that there would be one now. Isn't it worth being excited about? Yun Chuzhou replied with a perfunctory "Oh." This fellow thought that the water-repellent bead that Feng Piapiao took out was only the size of a soybean grain, and it was white.
What was so special about it?
There was something bigger than that in her storage ring, and there was also a red one. It was a bunch of ignorant country bumpkins. However, this fellow rolled her eyes. This water-repellent bead would definitely be very attractive to a sect on an island like the Flying Flower Island. She could take the opportunity to scam them. However, she could not scam them for nothing, so she said to the servant girl, "Little 99, call the manager who is in charge here for me. I have something important to do." If Yun Chuzhou had said that before, maid number 9 would definitely find an excuse to brush her off. However, now that she saw that this person had spent 60 million yuan, she knew that she could not offend him, so she immediately took out her jade token to send a message. Soon, the manager who had helped Yun Chuzhou deliver the things before walked in. Yun Chuzhou narrowed her eyes. She did not expect this person to do everything by himself. He actually delivered the things to the guests personally. However, this was not the key. The key was whether his mind was flexible. The steward still had a respectful look on his face. "Dear guest, why are you looking for me?" Yun Chuzhou put down the half-eaten spiritual fruit in her hand and said with a smile, "Steward, I have a good way to kill fat sheep. Are you interested?" The steward never thought that Yun Chuzhou would say such a thing even in his dreams. He was stunned for a moment, but soon said, "Please tell me, dear guest. I'd like to hear the details. What's the expected price of the water-repellent bead you're auctioning?" Yun Chuzhou asked instead of answering. The steward paused for a moment and said ambiguously, "The starting price is 100 million upper-grade spirit stones. As for the final price, it's not easy to estimate, but 200 million upper-grade spirit stones can still be reached. I have a way to make the price higher. How about this? It'll leave you some leeway. You follow my method, and we'll split the part that exceeds 220 million equally. What do you think?" Yun Chuzhou said, with a smile. The steward pondered for a moment. Actually, he had already said that 220 million was already a high price. 220 million was far beyond his expectations. Since it didn't matter, he could still agree to it. Therefore, the steward nodded in agreement. Yun Chuzhou immediately smiled and said a few words to the steward. The steward looked at her in shock and then slowly nodded. He felt that they were already black-hearted enough. It turned out that this person in front of him was even more black-hearted. The steward immediately took out the jade token. Yun Chuzhou caught a glimpse of Feng Piapiao picking up the jade token a moment later. Then, her expression changed slightly, and she returned to her charming appearance. The steward did not leave private room number 9. He was ready to see if Yun Chuzhou could do it. Chapter 4152 Water Repellent Bead. At this moment, Feng Piapiao tapped the small hammer in her hand. After everyone had quieted down, she said, "Everyone, I'm sure you all know how precious this water repellent bead is. There's only one of it in this world. If you miss it, you won't have another chance. Alright, let's get to the main topic. The starting bid for the water repellent bead is 100 million high-grade spirit stones. Each increment is no less than 5 million.
Let's start the bidding now.
Although everyone coveted the water repellent bead, when they heard the price, many people immediately gave up on the idea. What a joke. Even if they were sold, it wouldn't be worth 100 million. Even so, there were still many people who were determined to obtain the water repellent bead, and the price continued to rise. Island Master Chi clenched his fists and kept increasing the price. No matter what, he had to obtain the water repellent bead. Finally, after he shouted out 180 million, no one raised the price anymore. Island Master Chi stood up excitedly. The water repellent bead was going to belong to him. However, a maid's voice sounded with a slight tremble. In private room number 9, guest number 19 has bid 200 million upper-grade spirit stones. Everyone immediately exploded. "Io, that sucker has bid again. This time, he's even more ruthless, raising the price by 20 million. Poverty limits our imagination. We don't understand the world of the rich. I reckon this water repellent bead belongs to that guest number 19. After all, that person is obviously a fool with a lot of money." At this moment, Foam Pia Piao raised the small hammer. 200 million high-grade spirit stones going once. Island Master Chi became anxious upon seeing this. He didn't have the time to let the maid pass on the message and shouted himself, "Wait, 205 million. Almost as soon as he finished speaking, maid number 9 said, "Private room number 9, guest number 19 bids 225 million.
Boom.
The crowd was once again in a discussion. They did not know how to describe guest number 19. This guy was too rich. Foam Pia Piao once again raised the small hammer. 225 million going once. Island Master Chi could not help but feel a little angry. Why did Foam Pia Piao not raise the hammer after he made the bid? And why did she raise the hammer on the 19th? Was she looking down on him? He immediately said coldly, 230 million. This time, there was no movement from private room number 9 for a long time. Foam Pia Piao was a little confused, but it was not good for her to remain silent. She immediately picked up the small hammer. 230 million going once. Maid number 9's trembling voice sounded even louder, 330 million. Private room number 9, guest number 19 bids 300 million. This was also the reason why maid number 9 did not say anything at the first moment. She was almost scared silly when she saw Yun Chuju stretching out 3 white and tender fingers. For a moment, she did not react. It was only after the steward coughed that she finally reacted. Damn it, was this guest number 19 crazy? 300 million? Adding 70 million all of a sudden, that customer number 83 would probably give up, right? Island Master Chi was also shocked by the price of 300 million, and he was stunned on the spot. At this moment, someone started to jeer, "That customer number 83, don't insist. It's obvious that you don't have as much money as that customer number 19. Why do you have to humiliate yourself?" That's right. Look at how customer number 19 suddenly bid for 300 million. What do you have to compete with him? Forget about giving up. There's no need to show off. Island Master Chi almost fainted from anger. As an island master, when had he ever suffered such humiliation? He was definitely going to take this water repellent bead. Therefore, he gritted his teeth and said, 350 millions. An old woman's voice came from the 9th private room. However, there was a hint of a young girl's coquettishness in her tone. "Idiot, I'll give it to you." Chapter 4153, on the other hand, earned 5 million. The scene was dead silent, and then there was a loud explosion. Oh my god, the one who spoke just now was customer number 19, right? Why do I hear that she was toying with customer number 83? Do you even need to guess? This is pure toying. This water repellent bead was originally only worth 200 million at most. Now that customer number 83 has bid 350 million, isn't it all because that customer number 19 raised the price? This number 19 is really mean. If you're teasing someone, then just wait quietly. But she just had to say it out. Isn't this making number 83 so angry that he's going to vomit blood? Island Master Chi's face was livid at this moment. He felt that his chest was so heavy that he couldn't breathe. If not for his profound cultivation, he might have really vomited blood after being so angry. Xiaoyu was so angry that she gnashed her teeth. Master, don't be angry. I'll go and see what that number 19 is. She actually dared to provoke our Flying Flower Island. I'll definitely tear her into pieces. As Xiaoyu spoke, she was about to walk out, but as soon as she opened the door, she discovered that there were many ghost guards standing at the door. A person who looked like a steward was holding a tray with a brocade box on it. Guest, this is the water repellent bead that you took. Please honor the contract. The steward spoke very politely, but he blocked Xiaoyu's path. Although Island Master Chi was furious, as the master of an island, he had experienced countless storms and waves. He quickly calmed his emotions and gave Xiaoyu a warning glance, then passed the 350 million high-grade spirit stones to the steward. He took the brocade box from the steward's hand. No matter what, the water repellent bead was finally in his hands. Although it was a little expensive, it was worth it since there was only one of it in the world. Of course, if he knew that Hei Xinjiu had a pile of water repellent beads in her storage ring, and it was even better than his, he would probably be so angry that he would vomit blood. After the steward received the spirit stones, he quickly went to private room number 9. Yun Chuzhou asked with a smile, "Did you get the money?" Did number 83 pretend to be calm, even though he was so angry that he was about to vomit blood? The corner of the steward's mouth twitched. It was not good for him to gloat so openly, was it? However, he still replied respectfully, "Our guest is as smart as you said. According to our agreement, we will split the portion that exceeds 220 million equally. This is the 65 million spirit stones that should be paid to you."
Please check it.
Yun Chuzhou scanned it with her spiritual sense and said with satisfaction, "The ghost city of Tao Tai is indeed trustworthy. If there's a chance, we will work together again." The steward said a few more polite words before turning around and leaving. Xu Fong felt that his worldview was about to explode. He felt that he had lived in vain before. Of course, the most profound feeling was that junior sister Yun was fucking inhuman. She squandered 60 million spirit stones and turned around to earn 65 million. Not only did she get a bunch of things for free, she even earned 5 million in the end. The most shocking thing was that this guy didn't do anything. He just said a few words and got 65 million. Wasn't it too easy to earn money? Maid number 9 was even more confused. Looking at Yun Chuzhou, who was eating and drinking, she thought to herself, isn't she afraid that after bidding 300 million, customer number 83 won't raise the price? Then wouldn't she have to spend 300 million spirit stones to buy the water repellent bead? Although maid number 9 was very curious, she didn't dare to ask. She didn't expect Xu Fong to help her ask, "Junior sister, if in the end, even if those people ridiculed you, customer number 83 won't raise the price, what would you do? Do you really want to spend 300 million spirit stones to buy the water repellent bead?" Chapter 4154. The furious island master Yun Chuzhou took a bite of the pastry and drank a few mouthfuls of tea. Then, she said slowly, "It doesn't matter if he doesn't take the bait. At most, he can just buy it. It's not like he has much money." Xu Fong, maid number 9, is it really good for you to flaunt your wealth like this? Also, are you sure you're not acting pretentious? That's 300 million. It's not 30, and it's not 300. Yun Chuzhou glanced at the two dumbfounded people and continued, "What kind of look is that? Don't you know that you're willful when you're rich? Besides, what's the most valuable commodity in this world? Naturally, it's the most valuable thing. Even if I spent 300 million to buy that water repellent bead, I still have a way to sell it at a higher price in the future, so this deal will definitely make a profit." Chu Fong and maid number 9 finally digested the meaning in Yun Chujia's words. Chu Fong scratched his head and asked, "Junior sister, according to what you said, that number 83 didn't suffer any losses either?" He Xinjiu laughed sinisterly. "He is different from me. I will sell that water-repellent bead, but he will always keep it. Every time he sees that water-repellent bead, he will think of the more than 100 million spirit stones that he was cheated out of. It's so refreshing to think about it." The corners of Chu Fong and maid number 9's eyes twitched. They lit a candle for number 83 in their hearts. That person was really unlucky. He would probably live in the shadow of this incident for the rest of his life. At this moment, the room number 74 was dead silent. Island Master Chi picked up the teacup and wanted to take a sip of tea to calm himself down. However, when he saw the water in the teacup, he thought of the water-repellent bead. When he thought of the water-repellent bead, he remembered that he had been cheated by someone. The teacup in his hand instantly shattered into powder, and the tea spilled all over the ground. Although maid number 74 had received strict training, she still subconsciously retreated to a corner when she saw this scene. Could this customer number 83 be mad with anger? "Master, why did you stop me just now? I want to see what this number 19 is." Xiaoyu said angrily. Island Master Qi glared at her fiercely. "Do you still think that you haven't caused enough trouble? What is this place? How can you make trouble?" Xiaoyu's eyes immediately turned red from being reprimanded. But, are we just going to let it go? That number 19 is clearly targeting us. If we let her go just like that, it would be too easy for her. Island Master Qi took a deep breath. This is the rule of the ghost city of Taotai. We don't ask for names. We don't ask for origins. Once we leave the ghost city of Taotai, everything will be written off. Don't mention this again. Although Xiaoyu was not convinced, she did not dare to say anything else. A strong killing intent flashed in Island Master Qi's eyes. His words were meant for that maid. After suffering such a huge loss, how could he let that number 19 off so easily? That number 19 had bought 3 pieces of 1,000-year-old black iron. With this clue, he would find out sooner or later. At this time, Feng Piapiao knocked on the small hammer a few times and said with a smile, "Everyone, although the water-repellent bead is extremely precious, I believe that the next auction item will make everyone more interested." Hearing this, everyone's curiosity was immediately piqued. There was actually an auction item that was even more precious than the water-repellent bead. What was it? Yun Chujio stretched her neck and looked at it curiously. Feng Piapiao took out an exquisite long box. After opening it, she took out a piece of bone. Chapter 4155. Yun Chujio, who was in a delicate mood. Feng Piapiao picked up the bone and showed it to everyone, then said, "Everyone, Piapiao is holding a piece of the tailbone of a 9-tailed fox. It was obtained from our ghost city of Taotai. It is said that it was found in a mystic realm in a low-grade continent. The origin is not important. The key is that this is the real tailbone of a 9-tailed fox. If a customer who has a fox-type spiritual pet bid it back, there is a high chance of improving the quality of the spiritual pet. If he is lucky, it'll be even more amazing if he activates the ancient bloodline. Even if there's no fox-type spirit pet, if there's a customer who cultivates in charm techniques, it'll be very beneficial for his cultivation after buying it back. Anyway, the starting bid for the tailbone of a 9-tailed fox starts at 100 million upper-grade spirit stones. Let's start bidding now." As soon as Feng Piapiao finished speaking, someone started bidding. Many of them had fox-type spirit pets. When they thought about the possibility of their own spirit pet becoming a 9-tailed fox, they naturally spared no effort to bid for the tailbone of a 9-tailed fox. At this moment, in private room number 9, Yun Chujio sat down on the ground. Chu Fong and maid number 9 were shocked. Chu Fong quickly helped her up. "Junior sister, what's wrong? Are you trying to bid for the heavenly fox tailbone again? You don't have a fox-type spiritual pet. It's useless even if you buy it. Don't be rash." The corner of Yun Chujia's eyes twitched, and she waved her hand. I'm not buying, I'm not buying. I was just too surprised just now. This fellow's heart was like a dog that was bickering. Wasn't the heavenly fox's tailbone in Feng Piapiao's hand the same one that she used to trick the three-eyed fire fox in the 9 Serenity Crypt in the Tian Yuan continent? The reason why Yun Chujio was so sure was simple. Xiao Hong was afraid of the tailbone of others, so she deliberately took a long time to bite a bite mark on it. Now, the bite mark was still there. Although Yun Chujio was a little puzzled as to why this tailbone would appear in Towering Sky Continent, she thought about how this piece of bone had not only been chewed by Xiao Hong for a long time, but also by the three-eyed firefox for a long time. The idiots below were actually competing to buy it. She felt that her mood was very delicate. After all, she still had the skeleton and fur of the nine-tailed fox in her storage ring. If she sold it, wouldn't she be rich? However, she could only think about it. If she were to take it out, it would be too eye-catching. As she thought about it, her heart skipped a beat. Logically speaking, the higher the grade of the continent, the more good things there should be. However, she had obtained many good things in the previous lower continents, for example, the skeleton fur of the Xiaohanio and the nine-tailed fox, the kitchen knife, the water-repellent bead, and so on. What was going on? A moment later, she slapped her thigh. How could she forget that the nightmare beast had once told her that there had been a great war between gods and demons in the last generation of the ancient era? It was estimated that these things had fallen into the lower continent at that time. In that case, she had hit the nail on the head. While this guy was distracted, the nine-tailed fox's tailbone was auctioned off at a price of 160 million yuan. After that, a few more items were auctioned off. Yun Chujio was not interested in them at all, and she started to fall asleep. Chu Fong and maid number 9 were dumbfounded. This was the first time they heard that someone could fall asleep in the ghost city of Tao Tai. What a weirdo. Just as Yun Chujio was falling asleep, Chu Fong tugged at her. Junior sister, it's time for the final item. Wake up. Yun Chujio opened her eyes and looked outside. She saw Feng Piapiao trying to create an atmosphere. Everyone, although the previous items were very precious, the next item is the grand finale of this ghost market of Tao Tai. I believe that this trip will be worth it. Chapter 4156. The final item. Feng Piapiao paused for a moment, then smiled flirtatiously. Why don't you all guess what the final item is? If you guess correctly, the guest will be given a small gift. When everyone heard that there would be a gift, they immediately scrambled to shout. It must be a high-grade medicinal pill, a medicinal pill even higher than the mysterious heaven pill. I guess it's a high-grade immortal artifact. Only this way can it be more precious than the water-repellent bead. Could it be some high-grade cultivation method? Or some ancient pill formula, talisman script? Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. If it was an ancient pill formula, talisman script, or something like that, she had to bid for it. The talisman script that the heavenly Dao Cliff had passed down to her was too high-grade. She could not learn it now. She had to think of a way to get a high-grade pill formula and talisman script. When the clamor of the crowd quieted down a little, Feng Piapiao smiled and said, I'm really sorry. None of your guesses are correct. Hearing this, the crowd became even more curious. They shouted at the top of their lungs, telling Feng Piapiao not to keep her in suspense and to quickly take out the final auction item. Seeing that the atmosphere was almost over, Feng Piapiao took out a very exquisite jade box and took out a black bead from it. Almost as soon as the bead was taken out, one of the customers exclaimed, This is the lost treasure of our Chaotian sect. Why is it here? The crowd instantly exploded. The loss of the treasure of Chaotian sect had caused a stir, and the suspicion was directed at Tower Master Luochen. How could the lost treasure appear in the ghost city of Tao Tai? Could it be that the thief who stole the bead had sold the bead to the auction house that organized the ghost city of Tao Tai? Feng Piapiao frowned. Sir, the rule of our ghost city of Tao Tai is not to ask about the origin of the auction item. Please abide by our rules here. In addition, this bead is definitely not a sect treasure of your Chaotian sect. Someone found it in a secret realm. Everyone, I believe that I don't need to say anything more. You all know the value of this bead. Although no one knows the effect of this bead yet, since the same bead can become the sect treasure of the Chaotian sect, it naturally has extraordinary value. The starting price of this bead is 200 million upper-grade spirit stones. Each increment must be no less than 10 million upper-grade spirit stones. The bidding begins now. After saying that, Foam Pia Piao put the bead back into the jade box. There was a restriction on the jade box to prevent any accidents from happening. The wandering guest who had been shouting earlier had a determined look in his eyes. Although Foam Pia Piao had repeatedly denied that this bead was not the one that the Chaotian sect had lost, no matter how he looked at it, he felt that it was the one that they had lost. He gritted his teeth and shouted, 210 million. At this moment, the maid in Private Room 1 shouted, Private Room 1, guest number 1 bids 300 million. Everyone was shocked. 90 million? It seemed that guest number 1 was determined to get the Black Pearl. Unexpectedly, someone started to raise the bid again. Private Room 74, guest number 83 bids 310 million. Room 10, Room 16 bids 320 million. Room 50, Room 35 bids 330 million. Yun Chuju narrowed her eyes as she listened to the rising bid. Most of the people who were bidding were from the 6 major sects, because ordinary people would not bid hundreds of millions of spirit stones at once. Moreover, they were all determined to get it. Of course, she was extremely sure that the black bead in Foam Pia Piao's hand was not the one from Chaotian sect. The reason was very simple. The bead from Chaotian sect had been eaten by the glutton, the black bead. Chapter 4157 came out of the box. Yun Chujiu felt that the Taotai ghost market really knew how to do business. The black pearl in Foam Pia Piao's hand didn't need to be exaggerated at all. As long as it was the treasure of Chaotian sect, there was no need to be afraid of not being able to sell it at a high price. The 6 great sects were obviously determined to get this black pearl. In the blink of an eye, the price had soared to 500 million high-grade spirit stones, and it was still on the verge of soaring. The individual guest who first said that the bead was a treasure of the Chaotian sect obviously had no way to compete with Elder Duanmu and the others. When the price soared to 1 billion high-grade spirit stones, he had no choice but to withdraw from the bidding. The remaining few people continued to raise the price. Each time, the price increased from 10 million to 50 million. It seemed that the final price was going to be very shocking. Yun Chujiu could not help but wonder, what was the use of this bead? Why were the people from the 6 great sects so persistent? As she thought about it, the corners of her mouth curled up. The bead from before had been swallowed by the black bead. What did this mean? If that bead was so valuable, then wouldn't the black bead in her dantian be even more valuable? However, this fellow's happiness only lasted for a moment. What the fuck was the use of being valuable? Wasn't she still a foodie who only knew how to devour her heavenly lightning? Just as this fellow was complaining, the bidding price had already soared to 2 billion upper-grade spirit stones. Elder Duanmu had also withdrawn from the bidding. There was no other reason than the addition of him, Elder Dongfang and Elder Gu. He only had these spirit stones on him, so he couldn't afford it anymore. Yun Chujiu felt that there was an 80 to 90% chance that the bead would eventually be auctioned off by the number 1 guest in Private Room number 1. This was because the maidservant who was in charge of helping him bid increased the price very quickly every time, so it was obvious that she didn't care about the price. As expected, when the first guest bid 3 billion, the rest of the people gave up. Foam Pia Piao was so happy that she could not close her mouth. Although she had expected that the bead would be auctioned off at a good price, she did not expect it to be auctioned off at such a high price. She immediately raised the small hammer. 3 billion going once, 3 billion. Foam Pia Piao's words came to an abrupt end because she had never dreamed that the bead would actually break out of the jade box and fly all over the place. Immediately, The situation lost control, and everyone jumped up to catch the bead. Even though Foam Pia Piao and those ghosts tried their best to stop it, everyone's eyes were already red. The bead flying in the sky was not an ordinary bead, but 3 billion. In the end, even the guests in the private room rushed out to catch the black bead. Occasionally, someone would catch the black bead, but before they could be happy, they would be overturned on the ground by others. The black bead would also take the opportunity to escape. Foam Pia Piao was about to cry. Whether it was the jade box or the auction stage, there was an array formation. How could the damn bead escape? Now that the situation had completely gone out of control, what should they do? The manager who had made the deal with Yun Chujio earlier was also running around in circles anxiously. He had transferred all the ghost agents over. He did not care if he offended anyone. Every time he saw someone, he would be imprisoned. He could not just watch the 3 billion that was about to fly out of his mouth. In private room number 9, Chu Fong watched with his blood boiling. He felt that the admission fee was really not wasted. This scene was simply too fucking exciting. Maid number 9 looked anxious, but she could not help much. She could not help but feel lucky. Fortunately, the guests in her private room did not mess around. Otherwise, she would not have stopped them. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.